How's everyone today? Hope you're all doing well. It's a nice Saturday afternoon, and we've got ourselves a V0 to build, or sorry, a V1. That's one of the Vorons I don't have, right? It's a V1, right? That's the one we're going to be doing next, right? The V1 build. We're going to do the Toasty Boy build, right? That's the build you all want to see, right? That's the Toasty Boy, right? I think I have the stream set up right. I don't know. I was playing around with some settings. I think something might be a little wrong. I'm not a cat. What do you mean I'm not a cat? I'm a human. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Wait. Oh, no. I am a cat. I'm a printed cat. I'm looking at the wrong screen here. 1 second. There we go. I had the wrong monitor on. Actually, I had the camera off angle a little bit too. Let me fix that. There we go. So, for those unawares, this nifty little model, courtesy of Chaos Cortex. And you can find it on Thangs, which I'm happy to announce Thangs has reached out again. For those unfamiliar, they gave us some gift cards to give away a little while back. And you know what? Apparently that went well, because now they have reached out and they are now a sponsor of the stream. So, if you get the chance, go check out this model. Thanks is a great website. It's a growing community of 3D printing models and other 3D models as well. Not necessarily 3D printing, but CAD as well. So they have a great site. Interface is great. Search is great. Community is growing. There's plenty of stuff there. Ever more is being added to it. So make sure you check it out and give them a shout out, because they support the things I do, which lets me support the hobbies that allow me to make great content for you guys. On top of that, Sparta 3D. For those unfamiliar, Sparta 3D is a vendor of 3D printing components up here in Canada, and they noticed that the Canadian viewers were being a little left out in the giveaways. So tonight, if you live in Canada, enter the draw below in the description. He has given me the permission to give away a Dragonfly Hot End. If we hit 300 likes, we'll give away 2. So make sure you sign up. So how is everyone doing tonight? We aren't going to be breaking anything tonight. I've spent the whole week playing with something that's been continuously breaking. So we're not going to be doing that tonight. No take 3. That will be a video. But tonight is the official start of Toasty Boy. So for those unawares, Toasty Boy will be my V1 build. Jim, I saw that. It looks like I'm waiting on the pop-up. I went through and I played with all my stream elements stuff. So hopefully this pops up. If not, thank you for the $5, man. Appreciate it. And Charles, thank you for becoming a member. I don't know why they aren't popping up. Alerts. Alerts are on. It's broken. I don't know. So anyways, we are starting the Toasty Boys build. Oh, there we go. That popped up. So what the Toasty Boy build is, for those unawares, is a V1 build. Now, currently I have 3 I have 3 models of the 5 models of Vorons. I got V2s, I got a V0, and a switch wire. V1 I don't have. I used to have a V1. The V1 was what is now Tall Boy. This guy back here. It was converted from a V1.5 to a V2.4 currently. But people want a V1 build. I kind of want to build a V1, so we're going to build one. With a CNC head. No. If everything goes well, I'll touch on that later. This is for the later project. So, how Toasty Boy will be is a V1. Now, it is not going to be, I know I'm calling it Toasty Boy, but I'm calling it Toasty Boy because optimized enclosure for consistent high quality high temperatures for printing non-common plastics is a boring name. So Toasty Boy is going to be a V1. Now a V1 is the original Voron model. It's been updated, of course. So we're on currently the 0.8 revision of the V1, so V1.8. But the V1 is a fixed gantry moving bed Core XY printer. I'm sure you're aware that's how most common Core XYs are designed, is you got a fixed bed, or correction, a moving bed and a fixed gantry up top. So the reason I'm building this is I want to get more into the more exotic filaments. Now, by more exotic, I'm not talking Peak. I'm not talking Ultim. Still home gamer, and I don't like spending $500 a roll on filament. So, I do have some fancy stuff now in boxes. I've got carbon fiber nylon. I've got carbon fiber polycarbonate. I'm going to try and collect some more fancy stuff as well. But the point is, I'm trying to build a printer here that's its job will be to take care of that higher temperature stuff, that abrasive filaments, the exotic stuff that you have to go through and change nozzles out on your normal printer to take care of. Neil, thank you, man. Appreciate it for the donation. Let me see here. Jim Seller is a lunatic whose antics I appreciate. Thanks for making the helpful videos. You're welcome, man. Appreciate it. And Pigeon FX, €5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Still working on my 1.6, so should get around to having a 1.8 in 2023. If you got a 1.6, look at the Legacy. That is the direct upgrade from a 1.6. So, we're going to be doing a V1. It's going to be mostly stock. I'm not going to be putting a chamber heater in it at all. It's going to be, the only main heater in it is going to be the bed and the hot end itself. Zavon, thank you for becoming a member. So what we are going to be doing though is optimizing the existing printer as best as we can to get peak performance out of it. Not printing peak performance, but peak as in P-E-A-K performance. Kyle Davis, $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Installing the 1.8Z on my Ender 5 Core XY. They fit perfectly with longer rods. Awesome. That's good to hear. So, we will be doing a few things a little bit differently. I do have a Galileo. So we will be going direct feed with the Galileo because I want to try one of those out and that's going to be in it. But the main point is we're going to be taking it and insulating the crap out of it essentially. And then also what we're going to be doing is we're going to try something with convection. So I'm going to try some fans inside the enclosure to basically make it a quote unquote convection oven. So by circulating the air, we're hoping to heat it more evenly. For example, people have been able to get a stock V2 with a bunch of insulation up to around 70 Celsius. So we're going to be doing things like using high temperature belts. We're going to be using high temperature motors. We're basically going to try and optimize the current design with proper part picking, proper enclosure to basically build a printer that can just sit at high temperatures all day, every day and print well. I'm going with the V1 platform because of the lead screws. I'm hoping I have less issues at higher temperatures with lead screws than with a belted drive, and it's a simpler setup. I already have Speed Demon V2s. I don't need a third V2. I do want to build something different. So that's why we're going with the V1. It should be an easier design to adapt to a higher temperature environment, and it should be a more robust design in that regard as well. We won't be doing water cooling. So let's go into this like a newbie. Hey, I would like to build a Voron. How do I build a Voron? Well, let's go Google. So, hey, there's a website, Voron Design. I'm sure you've been there. I want to build a printer. Well, there's, 5 of them now. How do I know which one? Well, documentation here. Hey, look, the help section's been updated. About Voron. There's an about the motion system, the frames. This is all new. So for those who haven't been to the website in a while, all of this has been updated recently. So there's a lot of not new information, but a lot of information people ask a lot has been added to this section of the website. So unsupported configurations, large format. It's a Core XY. No Core XY scales well large. Some builders don't like to admit it. We just flat out say Core XY doesn't scale because it doesn't. Jim Sellers, $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Could be one of those nights, isn't it, Jim? Chamber heating. We don't recommend chamber heating because there are a lot of potential issues with that in terms of safety. So as a blanket statement, we just don't recommend it because we don't want people... Nobody's burnt their house down with a Voron, unlike Enders and A8s. So we would like to keep it that way. Exotic materials as well. You're building this printer out of ABS components or a little bit better. It's not really going to do a peak stuff. But choosing a printer. Hey, which Voron should I print? Well, here's a breakdown of all the models of the Vorons. V0, V1, V2, switch wire, legacy, and the extruders. Hey, look, it's the jetpack. That's the only one I've actually had design input on. So we're going to be building a V1. So I've already gone over that. But for those that don't know and you don't know which model you want to build, this is it. So you can, there's links here to some of the videos so you can kind of see how each one operates to get you an idea. This one's from Eddie the Engineer. Go subscribe to him. He makes good stuff. He's also on the Voron team there. So this will kind of make it a little bit easier for those that don't know which one they want to build, because it gets asked all the time. Essentially, if you don't know, I would say a V1, because it's the best mix of complex, least complex to the most advantage, in my opinion. So, which manufacturer gave away a bomb to the printer? Nobody has given away a full printer. So, you want to build a Voron. Triple Z. No, I am not going to be doing the Triple Z. I know I think there's a mod for it. But I am building this stock with just the 2Z. I'm only building a 250. And I have no problem running a bed mesh to take the little bit out. So I'm not too concerned about a flat bed. I ran a fixed bed on my V1 way back in the day, and that was 300 by 300, and I had no issues with it. So we're going to be going with a stock 250 V1 direct feed. So what you do, for those that don't know, you go to the website, you pick which Voron you want to build. So we're going to be building a V1 configurator. This will tell you everything you need to know. Direct feed. Okay, oh, new build. Give me the full bomb. If I'm upgrading from a 1.6, you would just click that and it would spit out the bomb for upgrading from a 1.6. All the Vorons have that. So if you're upgrading from one revision to another, you can go to the configurator. It'll tell you what extra components you need. V1 is the only one I haven't made. Actually, I built a V1. My very first Voron was a V1.5, but it was built with the frame Tall Boy is built out of, and that's too big for a V1 at 400Z. So I ended up converting it to a V2. And I will be going direct drive or direct feed for now with the Galileo. I may go to Bowden later. We'll see how it handles the temperatures. I don't think it'll be any issue. But as for now, we're going direct feed. I've been on a kick with direct feed. I love direct feed, except for the H2. And I'm probably going to keep all my printers direct feed going forward, because the advantages of direct feed heavily outweigh the disadvantages of, or the advantages of direct feed outweigh the disadvantages of it, especially with input shaper. So it, you know, weight doesn't matter anymore. You can tune it out. So when it comes to joints, oh, I clicked on Bowden. Let me go back. Can't really go back on it. Direct feed. There we go. The bomb is actually pretty much the same between the two. The entire stream will be posted. Yes, all my VODs for all my streams, they're all saved on my YouTube account, and I'll link it to the Voron on the Discord too at some point. But I have a playlist of all the streams, all 40 plus of them now. Oh my god. So corner joints. For those that don't know, let's see if I got enough cable here. So corner joints. You can do what's called a blind joint, which is something like this on my V0. Okay? Where you basically tap a hole and use a button head, and that's how you connect them. Now you can also go, if I have enough cable, which I don't think. I gotta turn manual focus back on. 1 second. Mobile camera, properties, configure video, autofocus, enable. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, blind joints. So blind joints have a little cube that all three extrusions in the corner would attach to, on the Masumi corner cubes, I mean. So you have Masumi corner cubes and you have blind joints, okay? Blind joints are the cheapest method, and they work just fine. There's no issues with going with blind joints. Both of my V2s are Masumi corner cubes because I kind of like the look of the Masumi corner cube. It makes a nice clean corner versus blind joints. But functionally, they all work fine. The only one I would actually tell you to avoid is going with the Open Builds corner cubes. The Misumi cubes have indexing tabs on them, so it prevents the extrusions from rotating. The Open Build cubes are just square cubes, so you have a chance of your extrusions rotating on you. So either go blind joints, which is the cheapest option, it works just fine, or go Misumi cubes if you want to spend a little bit more. They're about $5 each per corner, and you like the look. So I will be going blind joints on this one because that's what most people are using nowadays. So we'll be going with that. Now, printer size. We have the specs for the printer in terms of size are the recommended specs. So when you see 250 and 300, that's the recommended size for a V1. On the V2, you have the option of 250, 300, and 350. The V2 scales better than the V1, okay? Simply because it has a lower bed, lower center of gravity. So you can, though, enter a custom size. So say you wanted to build one with an 8-inch bed, or you want to go beyond spec because you like living on the edge, and you like running Core XY printers slow, you can enter 500 millimeters because a lot of people want to build 500 millimeters. So you can enter any custom size you want on the next page, and it'll spit out the BOM, the bill of material, for that size. So you don't really have to do any math to, oh, hey, I kind of, okay, do I need to add this much for extrusions or that? It'll spit out whatever size you tell it of printer you want. Or you can kind of go the opposite way. Say you only have 450 millimeters of desk space to put the printer on. Well, you can plug in, I have 450 millimeters and I want to use all of it. And there you go. That would be a XY build volume of 290 millimeters, okay? So we're not going to be doing that though. We're going to be building it spec. So we're going to go 250 by 250 by 230. Okay. So this is your build volume, and this is your printer dimensions, the outer dimensions. Now the height, I don't think includes the feet. So this is the height of the frame, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So let me see here. Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up on chat every now and then. And actually, I forgot. Somebody forgot to remind me to turn the music on. And I have it working, I think, finally. Nope. I don't know why the music doesn't want to work. I don't know why the music doesn't work. Advanced audio properties. It's not muted. Sorry guys. There we go. There we go. Okay, I got the music working. If it's too loud, let me know. I can't hear it myself. Okay. So, where were we at? And we're just got some lo-fi on just for some background music because it's going to be a lot of looking at a screen today, unfortunately. So corner cubes will be better on the bed mount in V2. Oh, if you're talking about on the bed mount for the fixed, go with the angled cubes. They just look better. You can even, honestly, I've seen people just get longer extrusions for the bed mounts and just blind joint them. It works. So we've picked our size and now we can see the BOM. So you can click show here and this will tell you all the stuff you need to get to build your Voron. And oh my God, that is so much. I'm gonna give up at this point because there's just so much stuff here, but it's actually not that hard, okay? So we're gonna open a few websites here. AliExpress. I'm not logged into AliExpress, good. And Misumi. So what I'm going to do is basically try and go through the sourcing guide and component list and give you suggestions and tell you what I'm going to be picking or what I'm thinking about picking because I'll probably be ordering all this stuff this weekend. And then if anyone has any questions about any specific component as they come up, just let me know and I'll go over some stuff a little bit more. So right off the bat, kits. Okay, yes, there are a few vendors that make nearly or all complete Voron kits. So you can go on AliExpress and let's see what comes up, okay? So I want to build a Voron. So I just search Voron. You can find full kits here. You can find component kits. You can find full printer kits. There is kits. Now, the official statement from the Voron design team is there are no endorsed kits. None of these kits are officially endorsed by the Voron team. Voron is open source. You can build and sell a kit yourself out of your garage if you wanted to. There's nothing to stop you. But there are no kits that we endorse because we kind of want to keep hands off. We're not running a business here. This is just, you know, free time in our garage having fun. We don't want to deal with the overhead of we recommend a kit, it turns out it's garbage, and then people are yelling at us. So, there are kits out there. Some of the kits are better than others. Some of the kits have issues with certain components. I'm not going to go into each individual vendor. But if you go on the Discord, there are people that will tell you which kits are the good kits, which kits are the bad kits, which kits are okay. For example, Stefan just built a V0 using a FormBot kit. The FormBot kit comes with a heater pad, a mains heater pad for the bed that the wires have broken off somebody's already. Not Stefan's, but somebody else's. So the heater pad wires broke off, and that's mains. The heat set inserts, I believe, are the wrong type. And the MOSFET or the SSR for the bed auto switches on, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So no kits are perfect, okay? So if you buy a kit, expect for the fact that you'll probably have to swap out components. Because what most companies do is they just download the BOM, they walk around Shenzhen and just grab all the components that they need at whatever they can get good values on, and they throw it in a box, slap Voron stickers on it, and ship it. So they're in it to make money. I'm not going to fault them for doing what they need to do to make money. They're a company. Company's going to company. But there are better things. Now, I will probably be suggesting a few kits in here for components, but I won't endorse any of the official kits. So, Aviously, thank you for becoming a member. So let's start with the top down. Springs. Springs, screws, fasteners, washers. This is stuff right here will really depend on your country, okay? Now, what I did when I first started, I work in a tool shop and I went and asked the Fastener guy and I gave him a list and he kind of just gave them all to me at cost. So I'm assuming not everyone has a Fastener rep they can talk to. So you're gonna have to get stuff yourself. Well, how do I get anything myself? I don't know where I can go for screws. I've never had to buy metric screws. I live in America. Everything is inches. I don't know about this metric stuff. That's European. Well, hey, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a sourcing guide. And you can pick all the different printers, V0, V1, 2.4, switch wire, the components, etc. And this will tell you where you can buy everything. Now, everything on the sourcing guide has been vetted by somebody on the dev team. We either have used it extensively, we have knowledge of it, or we use it in our printers. So, if you build a Voron using everything off the sourcing guide, you will get a fully functional printer with hopefully no issues. Because, you know, some stuff you do buy from Ali and, it's Ali. So, if you just want to buy from what's recommended, just go through the sourcing guide, click the links, buy the parts. You will have a functional printer. You'll have no issues building it, as long as you don't run into any quality issues. So, screws and whatnot. As Ian was just saying here, Bolt Depot. If you're in the US, McMaster Carr, Granger. If you're in Europe, I know Metrics is a lot easier to get there, hardware store maybe, but you can even go on AliExpress and there are screw kits for Vorons. Now, luckily, a Voron is a 3D printer. So with it being a 3D printer, you don't really need to worry too much about screw quality because you're screwing into aluminum and plastic and you don't have machining forces on it. So if you go with AliExpress screws, you should quote unquote be okay if you can't source good quality screws wherever you live. For a while there, what I would do is just hit up the Fastener rep and get the bulk order of screws, like when I need 200 of something. And then I would buy, do I have one? Yeah. I would go and buy off Amazon the little multi-packs of like 30 or 40 of each of the M3 size or the M5 size. And I would keep a few of these on hand, and then I would go ahead and just make my little storage of screws. So there are multiple ways of getting the screws and the fasteners. It really depends on where you are in the world. Go to a big box store, go online, ship them to your house. But screws, like for a price example, this is a full 2.4 kit of screws. They have the T-nuts in here. Avoid hammerheads if you can. These are the wrong type of heat set inserts, and that's what I'm going to talk about. A lot of these kits just have what they can grab. So they see heat set, they grab these ones because these are the cheapest. I think these are, or actually they might have fixed it. Those might be the right heat sets, but you have to pay attention because a lot of times they just grab what they grab. So that's for screws, okay? When it comes to the T-nuts, try and get, I'm really hoping something doesn't pop up when I search something on AliExpress sometimes. So hammerheads, avoid hammerheads. Unless there's the one location for the panels that you do recommend, we recommend hammerheads there. So that's the only spot. But when you're actually attaching stuff to your extrusions, like the components, these style right here with the spring nut are relatively inexpensive. You know, 2020 M3, 50 of them, 100 of them is 15 bucks. These right here are great. They are roll-in, so you can put them in after putting your frame together, and you don't have to worry about hammerheads, how they sometimes just don't screw in. They don't lock in. So this is what I use, okay? And I know a lot of people use this style. Misumi do make roll-in style as well. They are pricey though. You used to have to need them in a few spots on the 2.2, but on all current Voron revisions, you can get away with using this style everywhere, and it's a non-issue. So with these ones, what I recommend is, again, there are sometimes a quality issue where the springs don't work. When you buy stuff off AliExpress, a good trick is to search by orders. So you can see what other people are ordering. Usually, quote unquote, usually, that's a good indicator of which ones are better than others. Because when you search for something, it comes up best match, and you might get something where it's a store, oh, okay, these ones look great. Yeah, but they've only sold one. So who really knows? So I roll my dice with those ones. I've been okay. I get the odd bad one where it's not tapped good enough or the spring just doesn't work. But for the price, they work okay for me. That's the one I use. So that's for screws, okay? Oh, and for plastics, use ABS, use good ABS, pick whatever colors you like, have fun with it. Okay, so now moving on. So this right here, this is the motion stuff. So I'm gonna be opening up AliExpress links for a while here. So the belt. We recommend Triangle Labs 2GT belt. For those that are unfamiliar, it is Gates belt. It's Gates Unata. Gates has a manufacturing facility in Asia and they make it for the Asian market. So this is belt made for Gates for the Asian market. So it's Gates belt. It's good belt. There are other brands of belt that are okay. For example, I know a lot of people buy the Pouch kit for pulleys. Let me see here. So for the pulleys, Pouch makes they make good for the price pulleys. Mellow pulleys are pretty good. Apparently people are saying they're a little bit better. But we know these ones work. Spend some time in the Discord, ask around. There's a lot of different good things out there. The sourcing guide is mostly stuff we know works, but there's always better and there's always worse. So Pouch makes a kit here that has all the motion components for Voron. This is a kit that is a good value, okay? The belt isn't Gates belt, but it's still reinforced, fiberglass reinforced belt. So it's still a good belt. I think I have this in my V0 and it works just fine. So if you want to buy the whole motion system and not have to source everything independently, the Pouch kit is a good value. But that's it for like pulleys and belts. So make sure you have good quality belt. Don't cheap out on pulleys, okay? When I built my very first Voron, I cheaped out on belts and pulleys because, hey, I didn't know any better. I bought what was cheap. And when you're having to rip apart the whole machine because pulleys are failing, when you have on the pulleys, especially ones that are tooth pulleys, the bearings are very small in them. They will explode. I've replaced, I don't know how many back when I had the V1.55. We don't talk about V1.55 for a reason. So now I actually run smooth idlers on both my V2s. And I will be running smooth idlers on Toasty Boy because I just don't trust those tooth idlers bearings that much. Do I recommend ordering? Yes. Okay, another point I should have touched on with the screws. Order extras. If you need 80 of something, buy 100. If you need 20 of something, buy 30, okay? Order extras, okay? Because the last thing you want to do is accidentally lose something, or you are ordering from China, you do get bad stuff occasionally. You don't want to be forced to use substandard components because it's all you have left, or you know, something breaks a couple months in. It's nice to be able to just grab something off the shelf and swap it in instead of waiting 2 to 3 weeks because you have to order it or paying 3 times the price because you're rushing it from Amazon. Make sure you have extras of everything. Plus, it'll make it easier when you go to build your next Voron when you already have half the stuff. So, in my case here, Toasty Boy is a Toasty Boy. So, we are going to be using, let me find it here. Printer gates. High temperature gates. So if you're running high temperature, now here's the thing with the high temperature gates. If you're not going to be pushing 70 degrees Celsius, there's no point in getting them. I'm going to be pushing around that, so I'm going with the high temperature gates belts. So how much belt do I need? Well, if you go back to your configurator, it'll tell you how much belt you need. So I need 1,690 millimeters of 6 millimeter wide. So I'm going to order at least double that for belt. That's how I do belt. I order double what I need because if for some reason you screw it up and you cut them short, you have enough to redo it. Or something happens and the belts get destroyed or whatever. It's nice to be able to rebelt your machine if you need to because of a goof or something, okay? And at the end of the day, the Voron is not a cheap machine. Trying to cut corners and penny pinch is only going to bite you in the butt. Spend a little bit more to have backup on hand. You'll end up, it won't go bad, okay? It's not like the belt will go bad. You'll probably find a use for it someday. And nothing's getting cheaper. So, buy your belt. Make sure it's a good belt. If you're going with if you're worried about high temperature, go with a high temp belt. I use Triangle Labs belts. It's good. I know some people order from Gates directly. It is Gates belt. So yeah. Linear rails. So, oh, and for those that are unaware, in terms of quantity, go with what the configurator says. The sourcing guide is a generic, okay? So don't go with the quantities on the sourcing guide. Go with the quantities on the configurator plus extra, okay? So let's see here. So where are we at? Linear rails. Okay, so linear rails. So when it comes to linear rails, that is your motion system for all the Vorons. The only Voron that uses hardened rods and linear bearings is the Legacy and the Z on the V1. So it's been a long time since I've used ball bearings, but I would just go with what's recommended. Timothy, thank you for becoming a member. But for rails, you have a lot of options here, okay? So on my machines, I use rails from CNA. That's what all my Vorons run is CNA rails. On Toasty Boy, because LDO is an awesome supplier and they make good stuff, they are hooking me up and I'm using LDO rails. I'm also using an LDO frame and LDO motors. Does high temp belt taste better than normal belt? It tastes slightly cinnamony. So anyways, linear rails are your motion system. This is what makes your printer move. Well, it doesn't what makes your printer moves. It's what your printer rides on. So getting bad rails will affect your printer. Now, rails are something you can spend a lot of money on. Let's see, what do I have on hand? Well, I just knocked one off my carriage. So this is the extra rail from my V0, or correction, my switch wire. V0 doesn't use MGM12. So when it comes to linear rails for a 3D printer, you have to remember there is no load on the tool head of a 3D printer. The only thing it has to do is just give you smooth motion and support the weight of the machine itself and the rigidity that's required for its own acceleration forces. It's not a CNC machine. We will be touching on CNCs later in the channel, or future in the channel, but you don't need to go crazy on rails. I know people ask about using high wind rails all the time, or other high-end brands of rails. Yes, they are better, but they are not better to the point where spending 10 times the amount, 5 times the amount is going to give you any noticeable improvement in quality. Okay, so in the 27 rails that I run on my Vorons, I've had one bad rail arrive and one that required reballing out of 27 rails. So that's 5 builds basically. Or 1, 2, 3, 4 builds. I keep forgetting how many I have. So, hey, Thangs is here. Hello, Thangs. They are sponsoring the stream. They are helping out with this build and future builds, and make sure you visit them because they got a great site there. And then also, we have the giveaway for the Canucks. So tonight is not can of can't, it's can of can. So everyone say hi to Thangs. They are a friend of the channel. So when it comes to your rails, go with good rails, but don't overspend. Now, if you do want to spend a little bit more, there are other options than CNA. RDBB on AliExpress is another common one. LDO make good rails. Robot Dig make good rails, although I think it's the black ones you have to avoid. They are, the way they nitride them or something makes them brittle. It's the finish coat on them. But there are multiple choices for rails. Fermio Labs rails. There's a lot of choices for your rails. Spend good money, but don't overspend when it comes to rails. And then when you get them, flush them with isopropyl alcohol, re-grease them, and you should be good to go. Take your best rails, put them on your X, then your Y, then your Z, in that order. Highwind MGN 9, 12, and 7 are more expensive than the HRG 15. Dang. I'm assuming it's because they make so much more of the higher end stuff for industrial and commercial use. So let's see here. What else do we have? Oh yeah, lead screws and steppers. So this is something I'm going to be using on Toasty Boy because we're going to have Z. We're going to have a lead screw based Z system with integrated stepper. Now, when it comes to your Z, you want to have the lead screw in the motor. When you induce a coupler into the equation, that's just something else that can cause a wobble. Lead screw wobble is the major issue with a lead screw driven Z system or any lead screw motion system, because the lead screw, if it's not perfectly straight, is going to constantly want to twist your whole system. So by removing the coupler, that can help a lot with making sure that it's straight and true. And lead screws with integrated, or steppers with integrated lead screws, is the best way of doing that. It also makes it so you can get more travel. If you had a coupler, you're going to lose that height. So if you are going with a V1 with the lead screws, go with an integrated one. Link CNC makes them. Triangle Labs makes them. LDO makes them. There's multiple different choices. I'm going to be running LDO because they're awesome and they're hooking me up. So the LDO rails are good too. I would consider the LDO, I haven't used them personally yet. I haven't had a chance to get my hands on them, but I would consider LDO as, for the rails and especially the motors, a step up from stock. So if you're okay with spending a little bit more money, they would be a step up from recommended. But remember, recommended is still recommended. It's like audio equipment, right? You buy a $10 headset and it sounds like garbage. You spend $50 on a headset, it sounds pretty good. You spend $300 on a headset, it sounds pretty good. And then you spend $5,000 on a headset and you can barely tell the difference. It's like, so yeah. So is that it for motion? Oh, and then for bearings, if you are going with something that needs the bearings, good bearings are good. The Link CNC are the recommended one. They work good enough for the price. If you want to spend a little bit more, Misumi makes really good linear bearings. For all linear bearings, again, you just have to make sure you clean them properly and re-grease them. A lot of them come from the factory with oil, not grease on them. You do need to grease them. And they usually have grit in them because they don't clean them. Diminishing returns. Yes, that's the word. So that's it for, I believe that's it for motion. So your extruder, the thing that pushes the filament into the thing that melts the filament. If you are going bowden, the world is your oyster. Use any extruder you want. If you want to slap a Hamera on a V0 with a bowden setup, go ahead. If you want to slap an M4, go ahead. If you have a spare Ender 3 stock extruder and for whatever reason you want to slap that on a switch wire, go ahead. It's bowden. You can, whatever thing pushes plastic, you could slap on it. So the world is the world's your oyster in that regard. Okay. If I catch you anyone doing this though, you're going to get it. So if you want to build your own extruder, the Mobius 4, the M4 extruder from Voron is a good extruder. That's what I'm running on Switchwire. BMG, the Bondtech BMG is a good extruder. There's a million good extruders out there. Okay, so make sure you got a good extruder. If you're going direct feed, okay, if you're going direct feed, you need to get a BMG extruder kit. So with the clockwork extruder in the tool head, on the afterburner tool head, the guts of it are basically BMG gear drive. You have the dual drive gears and you have the gearing themselves. So you have several different options. What most of us recommend is just buy the Triangle Labs kit and pull the gears out of it, okay? This is what most of us use. The gears and the quality of the feed gears and the nylon gears and everything are good. They're very good. They work well. A lot of us run with that. You can even buy them on Amazon if you're in the US. Well, they're out of stock right now. But people have used legit BMG drive gears for this and it works just fine. So you just need a good BMG kit for your gearing. I recommend the Triangle Labs stuff. I'm going to be using a Galileo, so I won't be going through that. But yeah. I put my Ender 3 extruder on my bonsai. Nice. Okay. If you want SAD, go back in my channel history and look at my V1.0 serial request. I was using one of those golden aluminum Mark 8 extruders on it. It was bad. Okay, electronics. So this is where you don't want to cheap out, okay? Electronics are the things that if something goes wrong, this is what can cause significant issues in terms of trying to get your printer running or, you know, it going ANET at 8 on you. So you don't want an ANET 8.8. You're building a Voron. It's a good printer. Use good electronics. Surprised it's out of stock. Yeah, we'll get to stocking and big multinational companies with, you know, supply issues once we get to frames. So with electronics, basically try and go with recommended or better. Please don't cheap out on certain things, especially like power supplies and SSRs. Your electronics, right? We recommend the Omron mouse button micro switch here for your limits, okay? They're $2.79 each. You need 3 of them. if you want to be super cheap and save a couple bucks, let me see if I can find it. Micro switch. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, if you want to save a couple bucks, hit up the Lisa store and get 10 of these for $1.22 and $3 shipping because I live in Canada and shipping is outrageous here. This is what I use for my X and Y on my switch wire and my V0. The only ones that have the Omron switch is my Z, okay? It's a micro switch. All it does is connect a circuit. They'll work. The Omron ones last a little bit longer, and by a little bit longer, I'm talking, you know, tens of thousands of clicks versus just 10,000 clicks. But they're pennies when you buy cheap ones. So the micro switch, just get one that clicks. And make sure it's a style. Don't get the big ones. Your probe. So the stock probe is the PL08. If you are running a flex plate, a stainless steel flex plate, you know, one of these guys, stainless steel, go with a 5mm sense distance. Go with the PL05. The PL08 is spec'd because the original spec was running just PI on your Mic 6 plate directly. Now with spring steel and it being steel, we can get away with using the 05 probes, the 5mm sense distance probes. They're more accurate. They do have a shorter sense distance though. So you do need to be using steel for them to work properly. So this probe right here, I know some people have issues with it. I'm running one of these in V226 and it's almost 2 years old now. And the probe just works. If you get it, there might be issues with your, the plastic it's made out of sometimes. Mine, I think, is polycarbonate. I'm not 100% sure. But sometimes, depending on where you get these probes from, they use like ABS for the enclosure and they will melt, okay? Now, another option, and I believe it has been added, oh, it's not on here, is, where is it? It's the Omron probe. Now, at first we thought these were like B-stock Omrons, but they're not B-stock, they're pretty much knockoffs, but they work really good. The TLQM-C2 is what I got. I'm running one of these in switch wire. It works just fine. So with the probes, in my experience, is they all work just fine. It's just the cheaper ones usually don't last as long. You might luck out though and have them last for like 2 years like I have. So what's my opinion on the Zesty or similar system? The Zesty Nimble, it's kind of like the Jetpack, where it's designed for an in-between, but it's better to go one way or the other, in my opinion. Either go full Bowden or go direct drive or direct feed. Especially now with Clipper and Input Shaper, I can sling around a full NEMA 17 pancake stepper equipped tool head at 20 kXL, 400mm a second, and it just does it. Input Shaper handles it. So it's kind of like how the Jetpack was designed to be an extruder you put on your X gantry, so it had a really short, feed. But then we realized it's just better to go straight to the direct drive extruder. Victor, PLN, I thought you said a probe name there. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I'm planning to build a V0. Should I wait for a 0.1? Build a V0 and grab yourself an orbiter motor and buy the stuff for the pocket watch. That's pretty much it. The big difference is the tool head and some quality of life changes. Oh, and the integrated lead screw for the Z. But like the gantry and everything like that, the frame, none of that's changing. So you can build a V0 and then easily upgrade it to a 0.1 whenever the design is finished. So you can also use a Pinda, okay? There is an adapter for the Pinda probe if you do want to use that as well. There's a few different probes that work out there. I recommend going with, buy a PL08 or PL05, a cheap one. And then if you have issues, swap to another one, like where I don't even know where I put it, the Omron one or Pinda or whatever. There are options. You might luck out and have the $3 one work forever for you, like I have. You're also gonna need a BAT85 diode. Just grab it from DigiKey. They're cheap. You're gonna be buying some stuff from DigiKey anyways, or what's the one in Canada? Mauser. Tater FPV, $10 Canadian, man. Thank you, appreciate it. Saturday night. It is Saturday night. I feel all right. By the way, this print here, I started this morning, and I pulled it off the bed like 5 minutes before the stream started. Like, I was cutting it close there. I didn't realize it's been a while since I've done a dual extrusion, and I had my settings wrong, so it was taking a lot longer than I thought it would. So I was really cutting it for time. So yeah, this is the dual extrusion model of the Lawyer Cat from Chaos Cortec. So I'm getting there. I'm still doing tuning on the switch wire. It's coming along pretty good, but if you want one of these, I got a link for it in the description. So it's from Thangs. They make good things on Thangs. Fidolvi, 40 rubles. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I think that's rubles. Here are some rubles. Yes, they are. Watching this while cooking. Awesome. I hope you're making something good. 'Cause I had spaghetti tonight. Genuine rubles. Yes. Okay, so now we're getting on to the stuff where I'm going to say buy this. Your SSR, your solid state relay, okay? Buy an Omron one or a Crydon one, okay? So go to DigiKey or Mauser or any like good electronics vendor, buy an Omron or a Crydon solid state relay, okay? This is the part that controls the mains voltage in your bed, okay? You do not want to cheap out on this, because this, if it fails on. And that means power is just going to keep flooding it. So please don't cheap out on this. I'm going to say this part here because I know people will cheap out on it. If you are going to buy an SSR off AliExpress, make sure you over-spec it, okay? So say your bed is only going to pull 5 to 10 amps, get a 40 amp SSR, okay? Because usually they overrate them. So a 40 amp SSR might actually only be good for 25 amps, but if you're only pushing 5 to 10 through it, you might be okay. I'm only saying this because I know people will do that, but please buy a good quality solid state relay, okay? Oh my God, we have like over 300 people here. Hello everyone, hope you're having a great night. For those unawares, I'll do, because we've been going at this for almost an hour now, this stream is sponsored by Thangs. They are a great website if you are looking for any 3D models or looking to share or create projects. Go to that website right there, Thangs. They have, their search is great, their model viewer is great. You can upload assemblies that can have exploded view of all the components. So if you're designing a multi-part component, make sure you share it on Thangs there. It'll be really good for getting your information out there. And then also, we have a Dragonfly to give away for a Canadian, because Canadians can never get anything. It's always can of can't. Well, tonight it's can of can. So make sure you sign up if you live in Canada, because thanks to Sparta 3D, we have a Dragonfly to give away. If we hit 300 likes, I got 2 of them to give away. So make sure you hit that like, because hey, Canadians getting free stuff is always good. So, moving on. New record. Yes, this is actually the most I've had in stream. So, for everyone who's here tonight, welcome to my little humble stream that I do on Saturday nights. This is the prologue to the Toasty Boy. We're going to be building a V1, so I'm ordering everything this weekend, and then I don't know if I'm going to do it like over several weeks as stuff comes in for the build, or if I might do it all at once and do a 24-hour stream on it, or however long it takes to build a V1. I haven't figured that part out yet, but this is the prologue to Toasty Boy. So I have built a V1, a switch wire, or correction, I have built a V2, a V0, and a switch wire on channel. So all the VODs are saved there. There's a playlist for all my streams. So moving on here. So you got your diode, you got your SSR, solid SSR DIN mount. These you can buy off AliExpress. This just allows you to mount it to your DIN rail for mounting all the electronics. So this you can buy off AliExpress at 66 cents. Now your motors. So for motors, you do have several choices here. We recommend Stepper Online. They have a store directly. You can find them on Amazon a lot of the time, and you can order through AliExpress. They have a store on each one of those. So they have their own store, an AliExpress store, and an Amazon store if you're in Canada and the US. So you can get them from wherever is in stock in the cheapest option. Just make sure it is Stepper Online. They make really good motors. All my Vorons, except for Switchwire, run Stepper Online motors. They're great motors for their price, okay? They're super reliable. You get the specs out of them that they list. They're good motors. If you want to spend a little bit more, LDO makes really good motors. So that would be the next step up. And then the next step beyond that would be like Moons, for example. So if you're looking for just best bang for the buck and you want reliable and you know it'll work, Stepper Online. If you want to get a little bit fancier, maybe a little bit more precision, go with some 0.9 millimeter motors for your X and Y from LDO. And then if you want to go all Gucci, Moons motors. So. And then after that, your power supply. Go buy a Meanwell. Buy a Meanwell off DigiKey or Mauser or any reputable vendor. Don't buy a Meanwell off AliExpress. There are a lot of fakes out there. You are going to want a Meanwell. Now, for the printer, you only need, depending on the Voron you're building, get the size we recommend. You don't need to go beyond that. A lot of times you see in like Ender 3s, you have like a 360 watt power supply. Well, a V2 has 8 motors in it, or 7 motors in it. How many motors? 8 motors, 7 motors. It's got 7 motors in it, and it's only using a 200 watt. What the heck? Well, you're running a mains powered bed. So you don't need to power the bed at all. You're only powering the hot end, the electronics, and the motors. So a 200 watt is plenty. Plus a 200 watt is passively cooled. So you don't have a loud annoying fan kicking on. The only Voron that you need to get a fan, or the only Voron that you need a power supply that has an actively cooled fan is the Switchwire, and that's because it has a DC bed. It's got a 24 volt DC bed. So when it comes to Toasty Boy here, we're just gonna be going with the LRS 224 and go 24 volts. Please don't go 12 volts. There are links to the official vendors. Okay. Oh, let me see here. Yeah, not on the sourcing guide. So just be careful with AliExpress because there are a lot of knockoffs on there. So why not 12 volt? 12 volt is not great for a 3D printer. Now you see a lot of 3D printers are 12 volt as a legacy because back in ye olde times, a lot of people are using computer power supplies to power their printers, and those are 12 volts. Well, nowadays we realize, hey, we can use, you know, these LED power supplies. Then they're now used for a lot of other stuff. But 24 volts, you need less amperage in your wires. So to push the same amount of current through, you need less amps. So when you're powering your, your hot end, you can get away with, it's safer with a 20 gauge wire than it is with 12 volts, for example. So you're pushing less amps, it's safer. Motors run better at 24 volts. Stepper drivers run cooler at 24 volts, and everything is actually quieter at 24 volts when it comes to your motion system. So if you go 24 volts, unless there's some reason you can't go 24 volts, okay? So yes, you can go with thinner wires. Don't go with thinner wires, go with the wires we recommend, the wire sizes, and that it just gives you more overhead in terms of safety factor. Now, moving on here. So you do have this little terminal cover here, and this just sits over top of your SSR if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it just sits over the terminals. You can print something though for that. Another Meanwell power supply. This is for your Raspberry Pi. So the way we have it set up is you actually have a separate power supply for the Raspberry Pi, feeding it its own dedicated 5 volts. This is good because a power supply you'll have more luck with reliability with a separate power supply than a buck converter. If you're running a buck converter, you can run into issues with reliability, especially with some of the cheaper buck converters. I've had them die on me or undervolt my Raspberry Pi mid-print and just everything stops working. So we do recommend going with a separate power supply for your Raspberry Pi. And the RS-255 isn't that expensive. It's only, you know, $11 on DigiKey. So you're gonna be buying stuff from DigiKey, grab one of these. Another good advantage is, depending on how you do your wiring, you could set up this so that your Raspberry Pi has its own separate power switch. Okay, so this way you could turn your printer off but leave your Raspberry Pi on if you're worried about corrupting the SD card on your Raspberry Pi. So that is an option. Okay. Which one is this? Yeah. So this is for your electronics, or for your actual inlet itself. Please go with a good inlet. The recommended one here is good. You can go with the filtered inlet as well as another option. But make sure you go with a good inlet, because this is going to be taking the mains voltage out of your wall and feeding it to your printer. If you go with a, let me see, do I have one? I thought I had one. If you go with the cheap ones, be aware they can melt on you. They can fail on you. The cheap ones are cheap for a reason, and cheap plus mains voltage is really not a good combination, okay? So you want to spend some good money on getting a good power inlet. You only need one of them, so just get one good one. Your power cord, honestly, you probably have a dozen of these kicking around. So grab one off Amazon. Then what is this? Oh, okay. So for your hot end, okay, so hot end's under electronics here. When it comes to your hot end, this is really a personal preference point, okay? The 4 supported hot ends by the Voron ecosystem is the V6, the Dragonfly, and the Mosquito, okay? Toasty Boy is gonna be using a Mosquito because I have one already. And it's been sitting on my shelf for a couple months now. So I'm not gonna throw it out, I'm gonna use it. So this is what I'm gonna be putting in Toasty Boy. This is a V1 Mosquito, a first gen Mosquito. And I have a Mosquito in V226. So I'm gonna be using a Mosquito. But when it comes to best bang for your buck, it really depends. If you're okay with having to deal with having to use a wrench to do your nozzle changes and, you know, not the best output, but still decent enough, a V6 clone at $20 Canadian, because I live in Canada, so yay. Oh, E2, thank you, man, appreciate it. $1.68. Thanks. Aw, puppy. His icon has a puppy. Let me go see if the puppy's here. But yeah, so a V6, you can't get a better bang for your buck. Like, you won't be able to get a better bang for your buck than a Triangle Labs V6 for your hot end. But if you want the quality of life improvements, a Dragon or a Dragonfly would be the next step up. With the Dragon, you do have the ability to do the one-handed nozzle changes and all that. And I like the fixed heater block. Coda! Hey, get over here. Sit. Look. Hey, what's this? You gonna hop up? Now you're all tangled up in my headset. Hey, what's this? Come on, up. Aw. Aw. He's a good boy. Kisses? No? Okay. Go see Mama. My room's a mess right now. Duff, $6.99. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Doggo? Doggo. He is a good boy. So yeah, so when it comes to hot ends, if you want to be cheap and get a good one, Triangle Labs V6. If you want to spend a little bit more, you got the Dragon, you got the Dragonfly, and then you have the Mosquito. So I'm not going to tell you which one to use. That comes down to how much you want to spend and what you're looking for in a hot end, if you want the creature comfort, quality of life improvements or not. Hark, $5. Doom. Nope, no Doom. Toasty Boy. The Copperhead is not supported. There is no mount for it officially. There is, like, somebody made a mod if you wanted to literally use a Mark 8 hot end from an Ender style. You can do that. It's a mod though. So hot end comes down to personal choice really and how much you want to spend. So I'm going to be using a mosquito because I have a mosquito. So that's what we're going to be going with that. I don't think I'm going to make 3 hours tonight. I'm talking a lot. Okay, moving on. Fans. There's a lot of options for fans. You can buy cheap fans, you can buy expensive fans. I use GD Steim fans, or GTD Steim, or GT Steim. I can't remember how it's pronounced. But I use GT Steim fans. They work good enough. They're quiet enough. My printers are all in a room to themselves, so I don't really care about super quiet. I know some people like to use Noctuas. Try to avoid using Noctuas because they can't really push a lot of air. So when it comes to a hot end, you'll probably have heat creep issues. Using them for the electronics compartment to keep the electronics cool is fine. That's what I use actually. I use the 40mm Noctuas there. But go with an okay fan. Usually they're not that expensive. Sunon makes good fans. Delta fans. There's some good quality vendors, and then there's also the cheap fans. I go with GD Stein, which are kind of like mid-grade. Make sure they're ball bearing though. Don't get sleeve fans. So yeah. I have a 42U rack in my 3D printer, or in the same room as my 3D printer, so I don't care about fan noise. That's a Spirit Ben. I used to run a 4020 Sunon server grade fan as my hot end fan back when I ran a V6, so I didn't have to worry about heat creep at all. But yeah, it sounded like I was turning on a server when I turned the printer on. Okay, and the last thing for electronics is the thermal fuse. So your thermal fuse, make sure, what I recommend is go to this link, buy it, 125 Celsius, 115 is cutting it a little too close in my opinion. I run 125 Celsius ones, okay? And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna attach this using the high temperature adhesive, thermal adhesive that, you know, you can make silicone socks out of it. But I don't have any in this room, I don't think, so I can't show it. But you're gonna use like a high temperature adhesive to attach it to your pad or your heating mat. Or if you can't do that, attach it to the metal plate right next to your heating mat. So what this fuse is, it's a one-time fuse. If it hits that temperature, it pops. And we've tested these and they pop at the right temperature. You want your printer to die if it overheats. If you have a runaway where your SSR opens up because something fails and your bed is just getting full mains voltage continuously, when that hits a certain temperature, you want the power to be killed with no chance of coming it back on. You don't want to use a resettable fuse, or at least one that's temperature resettable, because what will happen is it'll suddenly shoot up, it'll pop, but then it'll cool back down. And then once it's below the temperature again, it'll just open and just keep thermal cycling at a dangerous point. And then if the mat falls off, then you have, you know, something that's over 100 degrees sitting on coroplast. So you really want to make sure that you use the proper thermal fuse. Is it okay to use a buck converter to power fans? I do that. I've run buck converters to power my fans. Just make sure that your most controller boards switch on the off. At least on the SKRs, they switch on the ground. So you would feed like 12 volts from the buck converter to the fan, and then the ground would come back and connect to your controller board at whatever connector it's supposed to. So yeah, so make sure you have a thermal fuse on any of the mains beds. Okay, and then moving on here from thermal fuses. Hey, Raspberry Pi. It's a Raspberry Pi. If you want to be real cheap and you don't care about cameras, you can run a Pi Zero just fine. If you want to run a camera, Pi 3B or better. Now, if a Pi 3B can handle it just fine, you don't need the 8 gig Pi 4, especially with Clipper and the standalone interfaces. If you're running Octoprint, I think you might want a little bit more just because Octoprint's kind of a little bit hoggy on the resources. But if you're running mainsail or fluid, Pi 3 are better if you want a camera. If you don't care about a camera, Pi 0. It's simple as that. Or Pi 3A. The HDMI screen also uses a lot of power. Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you do want to run clipper screen, you probably want one of the bigger Pis. Micro SD card. Get a good SD card. Don't use the one that came in some random cheap electronic from like 10 years ago. Ooh. Okay. Now moving on. I'm saying moving on a lot tonight. We're moving on. Pi 4 has a better flavor profile. Nice. So, controllers. We recommend the SKR 1.4 simply because it has everything we need at a good price. Okay. Now, it's Clipper. The machine's running Clipper. You could run pretty much any controller board you want. Up until 2.2, ramps was still spec. You just throw 2 ramps in and you're good to go. When it comes to drivers, TMC 2209s, you don't need the fancy 5160s or any of the super high-end TMC drivers. Just get 2209s. They run quiet, plenty powerful. They have all the features you need. You're not going to be using sensorless homing anyways. So just get TMC 2209s. That's the driver you want. Just get them. For controller board, you have options. Now, the SKR 1.4 or 1.3, they both work just fine. There's profiles for them already for the Voron. You need 2 of them for a V2. All the other ones, you only need 1. The SKR Mini E3 is the option if you only need to run 4 drivers or 4 motors and you want it all integrated. That's a good board. I run that in my V0. You can also use it on the switch wire if you only plan on running 1 extruder. Toasty Boy, we're going to be running 5 motors, so I need 5. But I don't need 5. I need 6. So the reason I need 6 is, let me find it here. Step stick. Can't remember what it's called on AliExpress. PT100. Tony Labs? I think it's Tony Labs. Yeah, this guy. Okay. So, because Toasty Boy is going to be a higher temperature, Dave, thank you for becoming a member. So, because Toasty Boy is going to be a higher temperature printer, I'm going to be running a PT100 sensor. So, with a PT100 sensor, for those that are unawares, you need an amplification board. Okay. Well, that's a big, external board. Well, thanks to Ray here, he designed this little guy, and then Tony Labs makes them and sells them on AliExpress because it's open source and they could do that. This right here is a step stick form factor board that plugs into an open, step stick slot. I have to solder the headers on. And then you take your PT100 probe and you plug that into the motor slot. And that's it. Now you got a PT100 sensor built right into your board, okay? So you don't need to have an external board with this, and it plugs into any open step stick slot. So that means I need a controller board with 6 step stick slots open. So you have options there. Hart, thank you for becoming a member. So you have the GTR, you have the SKR 1.2 Pro, you have the what else is there? The Fly CDY. There's multiple different multi-stepper boards that have 6 or more. I'm actually going to be going with a SKR 1.2 Pro. It's being donated. So I'm going to be using that as my controller board. But basically any controller board that has the right amount of steppers that you need, has the features that you need, such as the right amount of CNC fans, the more the better. I don't know why board makers still only include 1 CNC fan on some boards. Like, it should be 3, okay? You want to control your hot end fan, your part cooling fan, and your electronics fan. Every board should have 3 controllable fans on it. That's how it should be. So that's what I'm going to be using because it's being donated. But for your own build, yeah, the Physec X6, exactly. There's plenty of boards out there that you can use. Go with the ones that have all the features that you want. Remember, we're running Clipper here, so board speed doesn't matter as much. So if you have the choice between the SKR 1.4 and the turbo model, there's 0 point to get the turbo model because the extra MCU power is useless with Clipper because you're not, a V2 doesn't max out 2 ramps, so you don't need the extra turbo. Clipper versus Duet Wi-Fi. Go with Clipper. I have a printer that ran Duet on or run RepRap firmware on a Duet, and I convert to Clipper and I get better prints out of it. So another option is, the Duet. If you have a Duet and you want to run RepRap firmware, you can go ahead and do that. I actually believe Marlin supports everything to run a V2 if you want to run it on Marlin. I don't know why you would, but you could if you had. The problem is with those boards, you have to, with RepRap firmware and Marlin, you have to use a single board solution or a board with a dedicated expander. You can't just do the Clipper way and just slap random boards together. Like, if I really wanted to, I could build a V2 right now using this SKR Mini 1.1 and my Creality Ender 3 board. I could literally use these two to run my V2 right now if I wanted to. I would just have to install Clipper on both and plug them into the same Raspberry Pi. So Clipper and the modularity that offers is great. So let's see here. So drivers, yep, TMC 2209s, those are the drivers you want. That has all the features, they run quiet, they got plenty of power, with power to spare, you're good there. You don't need to go all 5160 on a 3D printer, or 5660, or whatever the crazy thing Duet 3 use. I still don't know why people put that in a 3D printer, it's massively overkill. For a screen, go with whatever screen you want. Personally, I'm a fan of minimalistic screens, so I use the Physec Mini 12864 screen. These little guys here, they're like 15 bucks, they're cheap. You can get ones that are RGB encodable, so you can change the colors and whatnot. If you're running Clipper, you can run Clipper screen as well on an HDMI capable touchscreen, so you can go that option as well if you want the fancy touchscreen. You can also run a panel do if you want. If you have an extra panel do, that works on Clipper. I have that on V226. So, and then you are going to need longer cables, odds are though. So, just grab whatever length of cable you need. Okay, frame. Mike Coleman, 5 Canadian. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Like the smash button, folks. Yes, like the smash button. We are coming up. Remember, at 10 o'clock, we have a giveaway. Thanks to Sparta 3D. So if we hit 300 likes by then, 2 lucky Canadians are going to win a chance at winning a Dragonfly. Open to Canada only, though. TMC 22 or 224s. Yeah, the 224s are good. Like, if you have 2224s, they work fine. But it's basically, when it comes to drivers, TMCs and better than the 2130s, because the 2130s run hot and they're kind of old tech. 2208s work fine. I run 2208s in V226. The 2209s are just improved on it. So if you already have 2208s, you might as well use them unless you want to spend a little bit more on a driver that runs cooler. Joseph, 1999. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I don't like the fact you can't buy a legit smoothie board easily and the dev doesn't help anyone with a clone. Oh, smoothie board. Who still uses a smoothie board? What year is this? I followed your RPI Zero UART tutorial and now I want to die because there are tiny electronics all over my room. I have a shelf full of stuff. My desk is a mess. Everything out of camera right now is an absolute mess. So let's see here. Now frames, okay? This is the big thing. Now, you have different options for frames. Okay, the stock configuration for the... Oh, great. Masumi is down right now. Ah, dang it. Okay. So, if you want a frame right now, you're kind of limited on options, unfortunately. Oh, wait. Maybe I can bring it. Zoom in now. Nope, it's down. Dang it. So, depending on where you are in the world, there are some vendors that sell Voron frames. Fermio Labs is based in Europe land. So over there, you can go through Fermio Labs and get your frame, okay? In the US, Printed Solid carries LDO frames. So if you want your frame, you can go through LDO on Printed Solid. And if you live in Canada, you can go through Sparta 3D. And they also carry LDO frames. They are being restocked. You gotta search for it more. So yeah, so there are frames. They're bringing more in because LDO basically makes them in batches and then sends them out. And when that batch runs out, you have to wait. But they are working on getting more out there. So you have two options for frames. You either go through Misumi or you buy like an LDO frame through a reseller. Now with the new revisions of the Vorons, the V1, the V2, the V0, and Legacy, you can actually use extrusions from China. You can use, where are they? You can use the crappy, the B stock profile because you no longer have to offset the rails anymore. So if in a pinch, you can use this style of extrusion, okay? You can also use 5mm. I believe there is components that accept the 5mm. It's been modded. So you can do that. But I recommend going Misumi or LDO. Now, I wish Misumi's website was up right now, but unfortunately we're in a little bit of a pickle with Misumi right now. Jory, €5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. For magically doing the stream on the day that I was considering building a V1. Well, there you go, man. It's a sign. So, somehow Misumi has a massive shipping delay with extrusions of the size that Voron needs. And it's not a coincidence. It happens to be the Voron sizes that they're out of. Too many people are building Vorons and they're not making extrusions right now due to COVID and the pandemic. And you guys cleared them out. That's basically it. You broke Misumi, guys, building Vorons. So certain sizes of certain extrusions are out, especially in the black anodized on Misumi. And they're going to be out for a couple months because too many people are building Vorons. Now, there are obviously commercial interests buying bulk amount of extrusions, but apparently the numbers from when you plug in the Voron numbers, you know, there's like the serial for each size. That is like they're one of their biggest sellers of non-commercial extrusions is Voron. So you guys broke Misumi. So anyways, LDO has a next batch of frames should be coming in soon. So those will probably be snapped up quick. So make sure you hit up David at Printed Solid or Sparta 3D in Canada, and make sure you got that F5 button handy. So yeah, just like you have that button handy to like the smash button. So Magic Studios, okay, yeah, Magic Studios has a good, there are kits out there for frames, okay? Magic Studios has one. AliExpress, you can find frame kits. Pretty much any extrusion of 2020 profile will work, except for V-slot. You cannot use V-slot because MGN9 rails will sink. They won't sit flat in V-slot, they'll tilt. So you can't use V-slot, but whatever else you can use, you can use. Plus, LDO frames, like, come on. Their colors are awesome. So. Phone Volley. Yes, a lot of other printers use the same, but apparently somebody actually contacted Misumi. And when you, like, pull up your Voron frame here on the sourcing guide, these numbers right here, these TPW and LTP and whatnot, like, they know these numbers because they see these numbers so often. These are what's killing their supply. So that they kind of know it's us. But they still have silver in, but they have like only like 1,800 units left or something like that. So they're gonna kind of run out pretty quick. Doug, thank you for becoming a member. So yeah, so if you're gonna build a Voron, now would kind of be the good time before everything's out. 84 likes. Ooh, 84 likes away from being able to give away two dragonflies tonight. Okay, so that's enough about frames. These are all the sizes you need. I wish Masumi was up right now, so I'd be able to show it. But basically, to get this like frame right here, because you need 10 of these. So this is a standard profile, 2020 extrusion, 307 millimeters long, tapped on both ends. Okay, copy. You would go to the Masumi site on the search bar at the top. You would enter this, hit enter, and it would pop up on the Masumi site, like that actual profile. And then you just add it to your cart. That's how you add stuff to your cart in Masumi for these numbers. That's how you figure it out. And then this is for like the different sizes. Okay, miscellaneous stuff. Bowden tube. You're gonna need a Bowden tube. You know what a Bowden tube is. If you want the better stuff, get 1.9 ID diameter. Capricorn, Triangle Labs, a bunch of other vendors make it now. If you don't really care, because it's a direct feed system, so the Bowden tube is gonna be like 28 millimeters long. Just get generic Bowden tube. So. I feel like the authentic Voron experience involves ordering all your parts from Ali and a loose collection of random. Pretty much, like you haven't built a Voron properly unless you're sitting there. Like if you build a Voron properly, your mailman will come to test walking up to your house, especially if you build multiple of them. Because it's like, oh great, another package from China that's like $1 that requires a sign. At least with COVID, you don't have to sign for anything anymore. They just leave it at your front door. Okay, cables and stuff. Drag chains. You're gonna need drag chains, okay? I use China chain because you have 3 options for drag chain. You can either buy the IGUS chain, which are really good. If you can get them for a good price, go with them. They're good drag chain. You can buy what I like to call a China chain because it's drag chain made in China. That's what I use because IGUS isn't that cheap up here in Canada land. And they work okay. The only thing is that they're a little bit, I guess you could say, rough. The injection molding on them isn't the greatest. So there's some relatively burry, sharpish edges. So you gotta be careful with your wires. They can cause extra wear on your wires over time, but I haven't broken any wires yet. They work fine there. And then the third option is print your own. You can print your own drag chains. There's STLs for that available. Okay, let's see here. Now, after that, you are going to need some terminal connectors. And this is for attaching stuff to other things. So, yes. So you're going to need forks. You can buy these at hardware stores. Just make sure you don't get the really cheap ones for the terminal connectors. Okay, why is it asking for that every time now? Same with these ones. These are for connecting your power plug. So you got the covered and uncovered ones. Then for your connectors themselves. So for wire to wire connector, you're going to want to use what most of us use is Molex Microfit 3. Now you can buy a kit that has them all in it, I believe, or you can buy them individually. But what I did is you can buy Molex Microfit 3 off AliExpress. And what I did was I bought like a 15 or 30 pack of 2-pin, 3-pin, and 4-pin, and I just made my own little kit. And the problem with the AliExpress ones is the tabs for locking are kind of weak, and they do tend to break off after about a dozen or so connections and unconnections. But they work good enough. That's what I use. But if you got the coin, get the legit microfit kit from DigiKey or Mauser. Penguin, €2. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. How many amps do you use for motor extruders? I run them usually around 1 amp, plus or minus, I don't know, 200-300 milliamps, depending on what it's doing. So yeah, so microfit 3, that's what you're going to be using, connecting your wire to wire. You technically can use any wire connector. You just need to make sure it supports the amperage and it's a locking connector. You don't want to be using DuPont just where it's just friction fit. You actually want a lock involved there. Then let's see here. Yeah, and then there's also this style here. This is for your bed, because you are going to want to be able to detach your bed. And this is the, I'm not going to say the part number because it's just a part number, but it's the MLX power plug, and this is a 3 plug. So you're going to want this one here for your bed. This is a higher amperage rating because you're going to be running mains, and it's got 3 prongs. So you got your live, your ground, and your neutral. And then what here, JST connectors. Now it says JST. You could buy the kits off AliExpress. You know, a JST connector kit off AliExpress. Buy whatever kit your controller board uses. So if your controller board uses JST connectors, buy a JST kit. If it uses Molex KK, use a Molex KK kit. If you're using a ramps, make sure you buy a DuPont kit. If they're different material, they could be, I have checked them. They are a nylon of some sort. I'm not too concerned about them being a fire hazard, as I'm not pushing in a lot of amps through them, and the connectors themselves are still good. It's just the little clips like to break off, but I've never melted any, so I haven't had any issues with them. And I know a lot of other people use the China Molex kits. What else here? We got DuPont. So you are going to need some DuPonts, I believe. And then your wiring. Now we have here spec 24 and 20 gauge silicone. If you can, go with PTFE. Go with Remington PTFE wire or some other brand of PTFE sleeved wire, not silicone. Silicone works okay. The problem with silicone wire is, oops, I had the wrong screen up. The problem with silicone wire is the outer surface of it is soft. So in drag chains, they can wear away a little bit, okay? I kind of ran into that issue a little bit with V226 when I put the China chains in. What I ended up doing was just slathering the heck out of everything in grease, PTFE grease, and it's been fine since then. On Tall Boy, I actually sleeved all my wires in cable sleeve before putting them in the drag chain, and it's working out fine there. So there are ways around using silicone wire, but the easiest way is just to avoid silicone wire if you can. Go with PTFE wire. So the same gauge of wire, still 20 and 24 gauge, but just get PTFE sleeving. Don't get PVC sleeving. Don't get PVC sleeving. We're almost at the end here. So the bottom back, top panel, Coroplast. Go to Michael's, Amazon, it's Coroplast. Go steal, you know, some neighbor's political sign out of their front yard. It's Coroplast, it's corrugated plastic. So you're gonna use that for your back and your bottom. If you wanna be Gucci, go with ABS panels, okay? That's like the Gucci option. And then for your side and your front panels, you're gonna want to go with either acrylic or polycarbonate. Now, here's the thing. They both work fine. Wrong button. V226 is all polycarbonate from Tap Plastics. Tap Plastics is great. They'll cut it to size, and they also have smoked tint, so you can get it tinted. Tall Boy is Coroplast all around, except for the front and the top, which is acrylic. Now, the downside with acrylic is a longer term thing. Is with acrylic, higher temperatures will soften it, and depending on how big of a span it is, it might sag after a while. If you're concerned about that, you can go polycarbonate, but polycarbonate is more, okay? Now, the other option is ACM panels. I would like to run ACM panels on V1 on Toasty Boy. They are aluminum composite material, I think it stands for. It's like a sandwich layer, but they're apparently pretty good at insulating. and noise deadening. So I do want to try and run those on TOASTY BOI, so ACM panels, and then insulate the outside of that. But I got to find a source for them up here in Canada first, because Canada can't. Does Coroplast sag? It does, but it doesn't really. Like, you're going to be using it underneath and on the back. In those two locations, you should be fine. You don't have to worry about sagging. So, transparent aluminum. Hello, computer. Okay. So after that, I'm going to touch on the bed at last, okay? So you're going to need a heater. Get a heater that's smaller than your bed. So if your bed's 250, get like a 200 or 220 millimeter. It needs to be small enough that you can still have all the holes in the bed for mounting everything, but not too big that you're going to have a lot of heat transfer at the edge where it's going to be cooler. Fish FPV, 10 Canadian. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Good job. Thank you. Thank you for watching the stream. So, I run 50 millimeters under my bed size. So that means there's a 25 millimeter edge around the whole outside where the heater doesn't cover. So that allows you to put all the holes in for mounting and whatnot. You can cut it closer if you want. That's a personal choice, but that's what I do. For the heater pads themselves, get 120 or 240 volt, depends on where you are in the world, right? Get the whatever power grid is. But get Kinovo, okay? Get a Kinovo heating pad. These things are good quality. They work great. They perform to spec. And as far as I'm aware, nobody's really had any issues with them ever, to my knowledge. They even have a bunch of custom sizes here for Vorons that we specifically requested. Like this one right here, the 100 by 100 by 60 watt, 24 volt. This is for a V0. Like this is specifically made for a V0. So same with these ones here, the 80. So get a Kinovo. Don't go on AliExpress and buy a really cheap silicone heating mat. You're gonna get one that has bad adhesive, and they might just not work, like the Voron bought one that just fell apart. And you don't want mains voltage stuff falling apart. That's no bueno. Now, it comes with 468 MP adhesive, which is good enough to hold it to your bed, but it does have a max rated temperature of 120. Now, if you're only printing at 100 degrees, and you might be okay for a while. I know the bed on mine, on V226, that bed is from June of 2018 is when it was installed, roughly, I believe. Maybe May. And that machine's been printing ABS for like 15,000 hours or longer, and it's still attached just fine. But I went through a whole process of installing it where I made sure I prepped it really well before I installed it. Now, what you can also do is run a bead of high temperature gasket sealant around the outside to seal it, to make sure it sticks, or you can actually attach it fully with the high temperature adhesive. There's a few different options there, but basically these beds are good to about 110. I wouldn't push them much beyond that. So, Elite Machine Works, there you go, 10 years on my Kinovo bed. Like, they make good beds. Like, don't cheap out on the bed, buy Kinovo. That's one of the, it's one of the components where I say, buy this. Don't shop around, just buy it. They make, apparently a lot of people use them for like microbreweries, for like heating canisters for making beer or whatever at home. So, have a good one, man. You could use an aluminum PCB bed. It's like, okay, like Switchwire uses a 24 volt PCB bed, okay? You could put that kind of bed in a V1 or any of the Vorons, really. I'm not personally a fan of them because they don't stay as flat as long and they're more fragile. Plus, now you also have to feed it more current, more amps to get the heat out of it. I just like running a mains bed because it's more stable, especially with a Mic 6. You're gonna get better heat transfer. You're gonna get more reliable, consistent temperatures across the whole print surface. It's not gonna warp, it's not gonna flex as easily. And they tend to last longer from what I can tell. What am I gonna use for the adhesive? I'm gonna attach it with 468 MP and then run a bead around the outside. Ram Design, thank you for becoming a member. So let's see here. So yeah, so that's how I'm going to do it on Toasty Boy. I'm going to install it with the 468 MP and then run the bead of high temperature adhesive around the outside just to ensure that it stays on. Yeah, I'll be using the RTV. Tallboy already has a Kinovo, or Nercure. Do you think the heater would work on a glass bed? Yes, it does. Some vendors already, some pre-built printer vendors already use it on a glass bed. Personally, I'm not a fan of glass beds. After using PEI on a flex plate on Mic 6, I think that's the go-to for a bed. The only thing is stuff like polycarbonate and nylon. I think you want Garolite, and I don't think anyone makes a Garolite flex plate. So yeah. Where in Canada? Southern Canada. Yeah, glass beds crack the weight. Yeah, if you're worried about glass beds, like look at Joel and his $38,000 printer, how easily the glass bed on that thing gets damaged. So, I don't like glass. If it sticks to it too much, you're screwed. It'll take a chunk out of it. Now, when it comes to the bed itself, okay, we recommend going with 5/16 inch or 8mm, I believe, in Euroland. Yeah. And notice how there's no really recommended vendor. Now, Fermio Labs sells them. Clever 3D in England, in Germany sells them, I guess. But let me see here. Where's the bed? Yeah. So €40 machined plus shipping. They'll ship worldwide, but when it comes to the bed, that is really going to depend on where you are in the world. Penguin, €5, thank you. Thanks. I asked because my LDO melted my ABS on my Afterburner. Do you think ABS is enough for Toasty Boy? I'm going to be printing it in either ASA or I'm going to try going straight to carbon fiber nylon. I haven't melted any motors or any ABS with any of my motors, so you might have been running it a little too hot because ABS is good up to 100, and if your motors are running at 100, you might be having issues. Ooh, Sparta 3D has them, so let me check here. Products. Gotta get a Voron section on your website. Oh, they do have them. Yay. Okay, yeah, they're the Mendel Rose Works. There we go. So yeah, so if you need a plate, I live in Canada, so everything's more expensive up here because Canada. Nice, he does have them. Okay. So I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for a bed because I have a metal supply shop in town I can kind of hit up and they might have what I need. I've done that before. So when it comes to your bed itself, it really depends on where you live in the world. If you can go to a metal supply shop, what you are looking for is cast aluminum tooling plate. We call it Mic 6, ATP 5. Those are brand names, okay? Really what it is, it's a cast aluminum tooling plate and it's blanched ground. You want cast aluminum. You don't want sheet aluminum. The reason is with cast aluminum, the stresses and everything in the plate are, it's less. Like when you have when you stress the plate by making a sheet out of it, you're compressing it, you're rolling it. So when you heat it up, it's gonna flex and taco like crazy. A cast aluminum tooling plate is cast as one uniform piece and then it's machined to size. So that way there's less stress internally. So when you start heating it up and cooling it down, it's gonna grow evenly, it's gonna remain flat and rigid. It'll last a lot longer, it'll be a lot more stable. So that's what you need to make sure. It's a cast aluminum tooling plate. When you get it, you should see it. It looks almost like a swirl pattern on it, or you'll see curved lines, and that's from a blanch grinder. A blanch grinder is this massive wheel that spins as it grinds the surface. So the whole plate is blanch ground to a thickness. And when you see the specs for it, you might see a maximum deviation. The maximum deviation is over the whole plate before it's cut into sections. So if you're worried that it might be, a 1/4 thou difference or a 0.2 millimeter difference from the highest to lowest, that's over the entire plate, not your 200 by 200 millimeter size of the plate. And most plates are about 4 by 8 feet before they cut them up. Those plates are machined in Minnesota. Nice. Let's see here. Jordan, am I going to do a video on the ABS on the Ender 3? Well, right now it doesn't have a working extruder, so yeah. My plate was cut flat with a fly cutter. Well, here's the thing. You can go ahead and do an extra step and fly cut them even flatter if you want. But usually from the factory, ground Mike 6 or ATP 5 or cast aluminum tooling plate is good enough, usually. So. So let's see here, and I think that's it. I believe that's it for sourcing, because I've gone through the whole sourcing guide here. I'll touch on tools afterwards, but I'm going to open it up because we're going to be doing the draw for Sparta 3D in just over 10 minutes here. So again, we have a Dragonfly hot end. It's either the BMO or the BMS variant. It's whatever version you want to give away to a Canadian, because today's can, not can't. So if we hit 300 likes in the next 12 minutes, I've got 2 of them to give away. So let's see here. And again, Canada only this time. Now, if you have any questions right now, I'm going to start opening up the floor for any specific things you want to go over with sourcing. And then I'm going to talk about tools later after the draw. So if anyone has any questions. And then if you are waiting for the draw, make sure you hit up Thangs. Create an account there and start looking at some of their models. They have a bunch of great models there. Pull it up. But I'm seeing a lot of new stuff on there lately. So that means like people are joining, people are signing up. And I just love this feature that they have where you can upload whole assemblies to the website and explode them. Plus their search actually works, unlike, you know, another big website. So I've even printed this guy. But yeah, they're a good site. They're growing, and I can't wait to see where things lead, because another good site to find models on is always good. Is there a source for the integrated ball screw motors? LDO has integrated lead screw, but not ball. No, as far as I know, there's no source for integrated ball screw motors. So, for a non-bed slinger, why not cast iron plate? Cast iron is kind of big and heavy, and a lot of people can't machine that. Aluminum is great because you can just drill it by hand. I did my V1 bed just drilling it, or my original V1 bed. How many Canadians have entered at the moment? We have 45. So. Do I work for Voron? No, I don't. Voron is not a company. It's just a bunch of guys designing stuff in their free time. It's more of a community and design group, but it's all open source and free. So. And yes, ball screws are overkill for a 3D printer. Like, you do not need to be going and throwing, I don't even know how much this is, THK ball screws in a 3D printer. It is massive overkill. So, these do not really belong in these at the price points we're looking at. The only, a resin printer, because you only need one on the Z, and you want to make sure it's really straight, and CNC. Lead screws will do you plenty. Just make sure you get good lead screws. Should have invested in a Canadian post office box. Yeah, ball screws for that ball screws. I dumpster dove for it. It was in the scrap bin at work, and it's like I looked up how much a THK nut is on it, and it's like $300. So, yeah. Should I get a Renishaw probe for my Ender 3? Of course, man. Like, with the Renishaw probe, you'll never have to worry about first layers. You should go right now, go buy a Renishaw probe. But yeah, ball screw would be good if you were going with like a really heavy bed. But even then, like we're not running into issues with lead screws with the 5/16 inch bed. So if you want to move a 1-inch thick Mike 6 bed, maybe. Will I go over bed mesh tutorial? It should just be as simple as setting up your settings, having your settings correct. Because that's what I run on Bonsai. Shoot, the power supply is not hooked up to Bonsai. I'm gonna try and do a video this week on intro to once you get, like I did the video on how to set up Clipper. I'm gonna be trying to do a video this week. I'll probably use switch wire as the example on how to properly set up, like go through your first startup tuning on your printer, making sure your offsets are good, making sure your Z offset's good, making sure your PID tunes are correct, going through bed mesh, your end stops, all that first setup calibration. I'll probably do a video on this week. And then also I'm gonna try and do the input shaper video, hopefully this week. This week right now was kind of a write-off. I know I try to do a video each week, but that H2, oh, it's gonna get it. So, like, this is what I'm dealing with the H2. Okay, let's see here. Focus. So that doesn't look too bad, right? You know, it's got some issues. It's not a perfect print, but that doesn't look too bad. Yeah. It prints TPU better than it does PLA. It just under extrudes PLA like crazy. Lead screw wobbles. So you get rid of lead screw wobbles by going with the belted Z, but we're not going to be dealing with that on this guy. But yeah, the V2 is belt driven because it's cheaper, it's more compact. You don't have to worry about lead screw wobble because having 4 lead screws would be insane trying to keep the wobble out of the equation. With the V1, we're only going to have the 2 lead screws, one on opposite side of the bed, and that will allow us so that we only have to manually tram the bed out front to back, and then side to side will be taken care of by the independent Z motors. Why doesn't the Voron just use inductive sensor for Z offset? So the reason you do the inductive, okay, so switch wire is inductive only. We only have the one, the PL08 or whatever probe you put in there for your Z offset. On the V1 and the V2, there's a separate micro switch for that. The reason that comes in handy is you are no longer, you no longer have to worry about temperature drift when doing your bed calibration. So when you're tramming your gantry out to your bed, you know how sometimes when it's a different temperature, you'll get a different reading. That's a common issue. And that's why Prusa's put all the money into the Super Pinda and stuff, trying to compensate for that. With the V1 and the V2, you don't have to worry about it at all. Because while the probe sense distance changes with temperature, it remains the same within temperature. So yes, at 40 degrees Celsius, it'll read different than 60 degrees, but it will always read the same at 40 that it does at 40. So you tram your bed out at a temperature, and then you use a fixed micro switch to set your Z offset. Also, it comes in really handy because when you change nozzles, you don't have to recalibrate your Z offset at all. Or if you print at different temperatures and your nozzle expands or contracts, it doesn't matter because it just Z0 is Z0 every time it hits that micro switch. So. LDO Motors, Jason, hello. How you doing tonight? Oh, that's not LDO Mort. Spelt motors wrong. That ain't, oh. Somebody's trying to pull a fast one. If your nozzle has a bead of filament, scrubber brush. You can have a scrubber brush off to the side and run a routine. A lot of people do that. Or in my case, I heat the nozzle up to print temperature and the plastic just smushes. I've never had an issue in like the 3 years I've been doing it. So. Jason is motors, not motors. So yeah, so after we do the draw, if you guys want, I can show off the first part of the future build on the channel. This will be the hopefully summer to fall project. And then we'll talk about, but the first thing is though, after the draw, we will be talking about tools. Because I've done a video on it, but it was a while ago, and I might have a few things. So if somebody has any questions about tools or whatever, we'll go over all that. You want to see the spindle go burr? Spindle go burr. So officially, where did I put it? Officially, I've already cut chips. See that little smiley face? I have made chips. I threw a ball end mill in there and just kind of carved it out by hand. Paul, thank you for becoming a member. KVP or eSun ABS? It depends on where you are. Why are we building a V1? Because I want to build a V1 and people want to see me build a V1, so I'm building a V1. But just to recap, the project Toasty Boy is going to be a V1 that's going to be enclosed as well as we can enclose it. We're going to try doing some convection heating, or not convection heating, we're going to try convection air currents to try and basically optimize the ability of the bed to heat the chamber as much as possible. We're aiming for 70°C temperatures. The reason we're doing that is the printer is going to have a hardened nozzle in it, and it's going to be designed specifically for printing stuff like carbon fiber nylon, carbon fiber polycarbonates, the fancier plastics, the plastics that like higher temperature. Also, a benefit to that is, while you can print ABS just fine at like 40 degrees enclosed, the hotter your chamber temperature is, the better results you get out of ABS when it comes to material strength. So ABS is one of those things where just get as hot as you can up to a certain point and it'll be better. Okay, so yes, you can print it fine at 30, but you're going to get better layer adhesion at 40. You'll get even better layer adhesion at 50. You'll get even better layer adhesion at 60, etc., etc. And you'll have less warping issues as well as the plastic cools as one homogeneous blob. So this is basically going to be a dedicated printer for funky shit. And not, you know, PLA benchies all day. But yeah, when it comes to ABS, eSun or KVP. eSun if you're new at it and you haven't printed a lot of ABS and you want something easy. KVP if you like cool colors. They make some really good colors. So let's see here. Are we able to do... we're at 278 likes. We have 1 minute to get to 300 likes. So it looks like I'm only going to be able to do one draw tonight, guys. I'm sorry. So let's see here. So we're going to do a nice little draw here, and then we're going to move back to the discussion. And while we're doing the draw, I know it's Canada only, so for the non-Canucks out there, make sure you check out Thangs, sign up, create an account, start sharing stuff, start downloading stuff, see what they have. They're a great website, and they're helping out the stream, they're sponsoring the stream, they're sponsoring the channel. It's helping me make content that you guys enjoy. Come on, 291, 291, 293, we're right there. It's gonna be like printed solid where I get like 50 in the last minute. Okay. You know what, that looks like 300. I think we're at 300. Are we at 300? Okay, oh no, I can't see my clock. I can't see my clock. I don't know what time it is, guys. Oh man, I wish I could see my clock right now. Oh, okay, it's 10 o'clock and it's 3:01. Hey, yay, we made it. Okay, closing it off. Okay, so let me pull it up here. We're gonna do the draw. Let's do the wheel. Wheel of names. So let me pull out this, create new spreadsheet. And let's go to the screen. Everyone likes draws. So you do have to be in chat to win, okay? So this is everyone from, I think, the last stream. Yeah, that's everyone from the last stream. Delete. So, we're going to draw a name. You're going to be removed from the draw, and then I'm going to draw a second name. You do have to be in chat to win. And how it's going to work is I'm going to email your information to Sparta 3D and they'll contact you, and then they'll let you know, collect your information, address. I don't want to know where you guys live. And then which version of the BMO or the BMS of the Dragonfly. So, for those that are unawares, so, no, not yet, fans. I need a number between 4 and 7. I need a number between 4 and 7. Six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, here we go for the first winner. And the winner is Mike Talbot. Are you in chat, Mike? Mike is in chat. Mike is our first winner. Congratulations. Let me find you here. Awesome. Okay, so remove you. So we got our first winner. Congratulations, Mike. And now, let's do our second draw. Now, 2 or 3? 2 or 3? Two or 3? Two or 3? 3. 1, 2, 3. Go. Da 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 da. Ooh, that was close. Stephen Campbell. And he is in chat. How am I in my? I can't be in my own contest. I didn't sign up. Where am I at? I'm not in here. I'm not in there. Don't you be lying. So Stephen Campbell, congratulations, man. So I am going to get your information here. Stephen Campbell. Okay, so I am going to email this off right now. Because I don't want you guys to lose this. Winners. There you go. So you guys should get an email from Sparta 3D and they will hook you up with the Dragonfly. Congratulations. What green slice at the bottom? Oh geez, how am I in there? I am in there. How am I in there? I didn't. Oh, did it auto-fill me? What the heck? Oh no. Okay, somebody. Oh, I can't share it. I can't share it. Somebody wrote my name down, but under a different email. Somebody is bamboozling you all. There are shenanigans afoot. Danton. I know it's you, Danton. Danton. Shenanigans. So anyways, draw's over. Okay, so thank you, Sparta, for giving us the 2 Dragonflies to give away. Thank you for hooking up some Canucks with some good hot ends. And again, thank you, Thangs, for sponsoring the stream itself. So for all those, English, for those out there who haven't signed up on Thangs, make sure you sign up, create an account, start sharing things, start downloading things, and help grow that community. because their search works, among other awesome features. So let's talk tools. So I've gone through the sourcing guides. If you guys do have any specific questions about sourcing components, just ask in the chat, because now we're going on to mostly the Q&A part as I talk about tools. So when it comes to tools, Vorons are designed to be built with tools that you can find around the house. You don't really need anything fancy to build a Voron. The most complicated tool you're gonna need and most advanced thing is a drill. And that's to drill holes in your bed if you're buying a bed that doesn't have the holes in it already, or you're having to drill your extrusions because you didn't buy them pre-tapped and drilled. So a drill and a drill bit is like the most advanced thing. Now you are gonna need, of course, other tools. Allen keys. You can get the fancy Allen keys, the Wera screwdriver set, Allen keys, or hex bit set. But I just use cheap Tecton, regular Allen keys. You don't need anything funky tool-wise. When it comes to wire strippers, a basic set of wire strippers. Grab them out here. A basic set of wire strippers. You know, I can pick these up at like Home Depot years ago. Will do you just fine. You can get the fancy ones, the ratcheting ones that automatically strip, but I use these because they can fit in smaller areas, especially when you're crimping up, you know, tool heads and whatnot. So yeah, you know, you can spend a lot of money or you can spend a little. Crimpers are one of those things. You're going to be crimping a lot. I really like my Engineer PA09s for crimping, JSTs and all that other stuff. So focus. There you go. I really like these guys. You can get the ratcheting crimpers as well. It's kind of a personal choice thing. There's a lot of different tools out there. A lot of people are going to like different things. Like for crimping, you can use these. I'm sure everyone has a set of these somewhere in their house. Probably all rusted, but you know, you could use these as your wire strippers and crimper if you really want to. For the ferrules, you are going to need some sort of ratcheting crimper for those. For your ferrules, just buy a kit, and usually comes with this for ferrules. You're going to want to be putting ferrules on anything that goes into a terminal that you have to clamp down. iSwiss or Engineer. I like Engineer, but I haven't used the iSwiss, so I can't really complain. Like, I can't really comment on them. Tater FPV, thank you for becoming a member. Don't buy ratcheting. Honestly, the only ratcheting tools I like are for the ferrules, and that's because they don't need to be super precise. You're just squishing a tube onto wire. PA09s don't work with the bed MLX connectors. What crimpers do you use for there? Oh, okay. I don't know. I used Molex connectors I got years ago for the bed connectors. And then on Tall Boy, I actually used butt connectors. Or bullet connectors, sorry. So on, let me find them here. Do I still have some left? I might be out of them. Yeah, I'm out of them. I used, on Tall Boy's bed, I used bullet connectors, which are just like they plug into each other directly, and I just crimped them with these guys. Is there a difference between the red and orange handled PA09? I don't believe so. Are Wera worth it? Some people swear by them. I use Tecton Allen keys like here and at work, and I'm just so used to Allen keys, that's what I use. The problem is with the cheaper Allen keys, here's the thing. Ball end Allen keys are really good because they're really handy because you don't have to go in at it straight, especially because you have to spin this, you know, whole thing around while you're screwing something in. You got to spin it. So being able to go at it on an angle is okay. Just be very careful when it comes to actually tightening screws with the ball end of an Allen key because they can break off, especially the cheaper ones and the smaller ones. And if you break the ball off an Allen key, good luck getting the screw out because the ball doesn't just fall out. Why is it necessary to ferrule wires down to screw them down? You want to, let me grab some wire. Do I have some wire? I gotta have some wire somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So you have your wire. Oh wait, why am I doing that? I got a close-up cam. Jeez. So you have your wire, right? And as it is right now, you go and you twist it, and then you go to put it in the terminal connector, but there's really nothing solid there. It's just a bunch of wires twisted together. And what can happen is as you go to put it in, a random wire decides to fray off, okay? And then that can cause a short. That's not safe, okay? So what you do, put that back on. Get your ferrule kit. And you take your wire, put your ferrule over the end, you twist them together. Yeah, wrong size. Use the smallest size that works, basically. You don't want to use one that's too big. You want to use whatever the smallest size that actually fits. Oh, these are tin. These are the tin ones out of the Ender 3. That's why this wire is sitting over there. So you put them on. And then you take your crimper and you crimp it, okay? So now you have a nice solid connection. It's a single point. You don't have to worry about wires fraying and causing a short. And it's a nice solid connection. So when you crimp down on it, it's gonna remain solid instead of just a bunch of wires that can, you know, work themselves loose over time. So this is just a much safer, cleaner way of terminating wires that go into a clamp connection, basically. So it's kind of like, you know, on a power supply. On a power supply, yeah, sure, you can just take wire and just stiff them under there and screw it down tight. But you actually do want to go in there and use like an actual proper connector instead of just going there with the wire. It's just going to be safer and cleaner in the long run, especially after time, you know, you're removing it, you put it back in, you remove it, you put it back in. The wires can get all bunched up and, you know, mangled looking. It's just a cleaner way of doing it, and it's a safer way of doing it. There we go, Jason, all fixed. Yeah, so in terms of like putting wires into a terminal, if you got to go bare wires, never tin them. Never tin wires before you put them into a terminal. It's a massive safety issue because what'll happen is the tin is soft, and over countless cycles, even though they might not get hot, they'll get warm. It'll eventually, you know, work soften itself loose from the constant pressure, and then there won't be pressure on it and they'll just fall out. So in terms of tools, like there's that, a screwdriver to tighten terminal connectors. Get yourself some good flush cutters for cutting zip ties and whatnot. You'll like those. Soldering. Now, I didn't touch on it in the building guide, but for your end stops, your XY end stops, you can use, you know, a custom PCB Hall effect. If you're making one of those, you're gonna have to solder, or there are just points you are gonna have to solder, like soldering the wire to your end stops completely. So if you are going with the KW12s or KW10 style micro switch, you are gonna have to solder your end stop wires to the end stop. So when it comes to that, you're gonna need a soldering iron. Now, if you're just attaching wires to an end stop, yeah, you can get by, you know, with the cheapo $10 Amazon special that I use for putting the heat set inserts in, because you're also going to need to put heat set inserts in with a soldering iron. So the $10 Amazon special will do you good there. But if you actually do plan on soldering, I like my TS100. That's what I use as my soldering iron. Yeah. We're working on full kit. Takes time. It does take time. Oh, we got Wall Street Bets here. Where did I put it at? Diamond Hands? Diamond Hands. Hey look, another great model you can find at thangs.com. Stonks! I completely missed the GME boat, and I was smart, because once it becomes something that's all hyped up, you don't buy into it at that point because you're not going to make any money. Where's the only benches? Oh yeah, I got to put it up. I got to mount it on the wall. I didn't have time yet. Onlybenches.com, the finest benchies ever. I need to mount it, but I need to put it like in something up there to put it on. I think that's the most I've talked in a stream. I don't think I've ever had a stream where I just talked for over 2 hours straight. That's not a print though. That's actually like machined out of like Delrin. I can't remember what he used, but this isn't a print. The Stonks guy is a print though. LDO and Sparta is a great combination. Yeah, I could dig it. Water cooled hot end extruder stepper at some point. Okay, so here's the thing with water cooling. I do not like water cooling in 3D printers, okay? You can get good motors or good fans that'll push enough air through a good hot end, and by good hot end I mean something with a bimetallic heat break, like the Mosquito or the Dragon or Dragonfly. Those require a lot less active cooling to prevent heat creep. So unless you are pushing above 300 degrees hot end temperature and above 70-80 degree chamber temperature, you do not need water cooling, okay, with a good hot end design, okay? Same with stepper motors. Stepper motors run fine up to 100 degrees. Most stepper motors, some of the cheaper ones around 80 you might have issues, but a good stepper motor is fine up to about 100. So as long as your chamber temperatures aren't pushing 100 degrees Celsius, your motors will be fine. They're motors. They're designed to take, they're rated to a temperature, and that means they're rated to a temperature. You will have other things fail before your motors fail at high ambient temperatures, if your motors have are set up correctly for the current and their use case though. So also, there's high voltage under these printers because that's where all the power supplies are and everything. I don't want water spilling all over my printer. Plus, I don't trust water lines ripping around at 300 millimeters a second. So yeah. Now, in terms of cooling stepper motors, there's really no point. You have to active cool them. Slapping heat sink on it doesn't actually cool a stepper motor. It just provides more thermal mass. They will eventually reach that high temperature. It'll just take longer. So yeah, I won't be going into any active cooling or any water cooling on this build at all. What are the difference between the 2.4 and the switch wire? Everything. The switch wire is a Core XZ bed flinger type printer, and the 2.4 is a flying gantry Core XY with a fixed bed. So they're pretty dissimilar. If you want to know anything about the different Voron models, I'll bring it up here. Go to the Voron Design website, help, documentation, choosing a printer. This has a breakdown of all the different current Voron revisions and models. Has anyone ever used 4 pancakes on Zed on 2.4? I think you could get away with it. With the 5:1 gearing, you should be able to get away with that if you wanted to. I don't know if anyone's fully done it, but I think some people have. Like you don't need, I'm running like the 84 ounce ones all around because that's what I have and that's spec. But yeah. Have you looked into the Hevort much? Any ideas for future branch out? I have looked into the Hevort. Like I know about it. I've looked into it. I don't think I'll be building one. I'm building the V1 because a lot of people want the V1. I've done, this will be the 4th printer build on stream, and I have plenty of content to do printer stuff for a while. For those that are unaware, the current plan is Toasty Boy. And then after Toasty Boy, I want to design something on stream because I have been working on my CAD skills. if I can get Fusion launched. For some reason, Fusion keeps crashing on this computer right now. I don't know why. Ever since I rebooted it, installed a Windows update. Yay, Windows. So I have been working on the CAD design. So I'm hoping that after Toasty Boy, because we are going to have some time between I order stuff for Toasty Boy anyways and I build it, I think we're going to just design something from scratch on stream. We'll like completely do a whole project from scratch. I'm thinking a laser engraver or something, because I have plenty of leftover extrusions from a switch wire. I have a ton of spare motors. So I'm thinking we kind of just all just do a laser engraver together on stream over a couple streams. Design it, build it, something simple. So I'm thinking that, and then longer term though is CNC. I'm building a CNC this year, hopefully. I have one component, and that's it. That's all I got. I have one component. I have a spindle. But yeah, it wouldn't be the laser engraver. It would be using one of those modules. It would just be one of the laser modules that, you know, the what are they, 20 or 30 or 40 watt modules. I'm not going to be doing no real like laser cutter thing. It's just going to be a little, hey, I got a bunch of leftover extrusions. Let's see what we have. And I'll do the design of it live, because I've been learning CAD and I'm kicking myself in the butt for not learning CAD sooner. So I think I'm going to do some live, and I won't call them classes on CAD because I am nowhere near competent enough to be an instructor of CAD. But I think we're going to try and do some stuff live so you guys can at least learn some basics, because it makes it so much nicer once you know how to do CAD. Like, oh my God, I don't know why I didn't learn this earlier. What are the ball screws? You have two. I only have one ball screw, and that's a scrap one from a bin at work. Yeah, the fancy overhead thing. That might be another project. We'll see. We'll figure something out, but I want to do a project together. I want to do like an actual, because I plan on doing the Saturday night streams every night of the week this year. And unfortunately, I can't build a Voron every night. So we are going to do a project together at some point. We are going to sit down and we're going to do something completely from scratch. We might do that overhead camera mount, because that I actually pretty much have everything on hand to do. So we might CAD that whole thing out, and it's 3D printed, so we can just print it and then work on it the next week. So we might do that too. How do you fix a skipping extruder? It could be skipping for several reasons. It could be the motor is overheating. It could be the driver's overheating. It could be you're not sending enough current to the driver or to the motor, or you can be trying to push too much plastic through it and the hot end's jammed for whatever reason, or not able to melt the plastic hot enough. There's a lot of reasons that an extruder can skip. So yeah. Is that a weight or a hand wheel at the end of the motor? No, that is a fan. That's a fan. This is an air-cooled motor. This is a dataless. So shout out to R3D. I have a dataless, but it's not a printer, unfortunately. It's a spindle. So this is a 500 watt, 48 volt spindle. Let me zoom out all the way here. Put it all in frame. So that is the spindle. This is the driver for it. This is the power supply for it, and that's 48 volt. So it's a 48 volt, 600 watt power supply. That's a 500 watt, 48 volt motor. So this is drawing just over 10.5 amps, I believe. So LDO Motors, Jason, $25. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, Taylor, for the great live stream. We all love Voron. We all love Voron. Thank you. Very much appreciate it. I can't wait to get that V1 kit. We're going to have so much fun building that. Well, the components, not a full kit. Let's see. I agree with this. Okay, so with the spindle here, guys. So this is not the spindle that you see all the time on AliExpress or Amazon. This one is actually from a different manufacturer. This is called from Dataless. Now, I haven't used the spindle. I've turned it on, obviously, but I haven't actually I can't use it. I don't have a machine to put it in. So this brand though, and this type of spindle is actually highly recommended from a bunch of other groups that do like CNC on the level I'm planning on, like the MP CNC group, the Print NC group. This is a known good brand apparently. So the thing is, this is about as big as I can go for the CNC I'm planning to build. I've showed off pictures of it before. Fusion isn't loading right now, so I can't really pull up Fusion. But I'm only having like an 8x10 work area. So I can't really go with a full 1.5 kilowatt big one. But it's 500 watts. It should be enough. You got to remember, the Nomad. Oh, Mike, thank you for becoming a member. The Nomad and the Bantam, which are desktop class CNCs. That's what I'm planning to do. I'm trying to do a DIY desktop CNC for cheaper than those, and the Nomad's 3,000. I'm hoping to aim under that price by about half. The Bantam is the most powerful motor out of both of those, and that's only 250 watts. So this is 500 watts, and the Bantam can do aluminum, so. Yeah, the 3018 is not rich enough. So anyways, let's turn this guy on. So let me just chuck something in it, because you're not supposed to run these without anything in it. So I don't have any proper tooling. So I'm just putting, I got an 8mm collet in there right now. And I'm just putting an 8mm dowel in there. Nope, that's not it. I had to go find Allen keys and wrenches and whatnot for it. There we go. Can I describe the spindle model? Here, I'll pull it up. I will pull it up on... where is it? So, on Amazon Canada, where our prices are horrible, it's basically this one right here is what I have. It's a dataless CNC brush. It's brushless, so it is a brushless motor. So, yeah. Now the thing is, like, you're probably thinking of these cheap guys. These ones are garbage. Like, these ones are absolute garbage. Like, they've got like crazy run out, like 6, 7, 8 thou run out. This one right here, I brought my inner wrap at home from work. So I was actually checking the run out. This thing has just under 1 thou of run out, which for this kind of spindle is great. It'd be nice if Clipper supported CNC. Yeah, somebody would have to teach Clipper inches first. So anyways, if you guys want to, we'll fire it up. And I got a little rip'em indicator here. So let's see here. Make sure you guys can see it. Oh, probably shouldn't have it. I got all the electronics under there. Here. There we go. Okay. Contact. So let me zoom in a bit. There we go. Yeah, I know metric is better, but the problem is I'm North American and all machining in North America is inch. Okay, so this can be controlled by a controller, obviously, but it comes with a little potentiometer. So it doesn't really kick in until about 2,000 RPM, but yeah. Here we go. So it does just over 12,000 rip'ems. So yeah, 12,000 rip'ems roughly. And right now it's not mounted to anything. It's just sitting on a little piece of. This is the only good thing the BIQ H2 is good for. The little foam pad that it came in. But yeah. So yeah, that will be the long-term channel project. And I'm able to do stuff like this thanks to Thangs and other sponsors. So make sure you treat them well, because they help out the channel and they're allowing me to do the things that I want to do to make sure you guys are entertained and educated, because this is fun. I'm having a ton of fun doing this, and I would love to be able to do this a lot more, but I'm limited by finances at this time. Because CNC, these are a lot of projects I want to do, and I know you guys enjoy them, so I'm trying to push through as much as I can. And they're making it possible. So thank you, Thanks, and everyone who donates as well. Anyone who is a Patreon member or a member of the channel or donates during chat, you guys have no idea how much I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Stephen Campbell, $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for pulling my name tonight. Keep up the great videos and streams. Got to drop off. Awesome. Take care, man. Hope you enjoyed the hot end. I'm running it in my Dragonfly, or I'm running the Dragonfly in my V2 or Switchwire. I got too many Vorons. And like, I did not have a single issue with dual extrusion with this thing yet. That Dragonfly is a dang good hot end, I will say. Before I rebuilt it, I had a V6 and a Mosquito in there, and I had so many issues with dual extrusion, but with the Dragonfly, it's mint. It works perfectly. No interest in resin printing. I would like... There we go, thanks. Love your community. Can't wait to see all the things that you make. That is the best punny name ever. No interest in resin. Okay, so I would like to get into resin printing, but I can't justify it. If maybe Banggood reaches out to me one day and wants to send me something like they did with the Ender 3, sure, I'll take it. But I'm very I do a lot more technical stuff than like, you know, everyone, you know, I got a million benches. I got a shelf full of stuff, of prints, but I prefer the technical like functional stuff. And unfortunately with resin printing, it's too fragile. Yes, there are like engineering grade ABS plastics for resin, but they don't actually work well. We've tried it with Vorons. You can't melt heat set inserts into it. They get brittle under temperature and they crack. So I would like one, but I figure I wouldn't be able to use it to its full advantage because I don't do like really intricate 3D modeling. I don't play Warhammer anymore. So I would like to get into it. There are things I can put to much better use, I believe. Yeah. Where in Canada from? Southern part. Not a member, but enjoy the Saturday. Hey, as long as you're here, man, that's all I ask. What desks are you using? I have a bunch of desks. Okay. AVE lingo is coming out. What? I'm Canadian, and I'm interested in machining and other, you know, CNC stuff. Of course, I'm gonna have AVE lingo. My desk, this one right here is built. I built this as a reloading bench years ago. I had to take it apart to move it from one room to the other, but this is all like 4x4s and 2x6s and like plywood, and it's got a laminate floor top on it. This is my main bench. This is a Husky bench from Home Depot, the Home Despot, and this is one of those clapped together metal benches that everything kind of slots into each other. And both these benches are bolted to the wall. So when the printers are running, nothing shakes. To be fair, yeah, true. Everyone in the southern part of Canada is in the southern part of Canada because we all live 300 miles from the US. If you look at the map of Canada, go as south as you can, that's where I am. Not into Warhammer. I used to play Warhammer. I had a 1500 point Imperial Guard army at one point, but that was like 10, 15 years ago. Fourth axis on CNC when I gotta get, you know, 3 axes working first. I don't even know if it's gonna work. I wish Fusion would launch. It won't launch. Southern part of Canada. I live in South Detroit, put it that way. Okay, so yeah, so this guy came in and I ran an indicator. For those that are unaware, with CNC machines or spindles, you have to worry about something called runout. And basically what runout is as the spindle spins, how much it wobbles, okay? So if you put an indicator on it, it should read 0 all the time as it spins, but you might see it move, okay? Now, you have tolerance stacking with a lot of things. So you have the drive shaft here that attaches to the ER16, because this uses an ER16. That's one of the reasons I got this one. It uses ER16 versus ER11. So I can chuck stuff up to 3/8 or 10 millimeters into here, versus ER11, which tops out, I think, at a 1/4 inch. I would have loved to got ER20 and put 1/2 inch stuff in here, but that ain't happening at this size. And I'm also hoping the extra mass is a little bit better when it comes to, it won't stall out if I try to go in too quick. So anyway, so you have the spindle as your 0, right? And then you also have this collet attached to the spindle, or the collet adapter, and then you also have a collet in the collet adapter attached to the spindle, and then you also have whatever is on the end. So any tolerance issues stack up, and you don't want this wobbling. You want this to be as true as possible, and this is, I get less than 1/1000. So less than 1/1000th of an inch of run out on this dowel, testing it. So that's why I brought this guy home to check it. So yeah, but let's have some fun. Where's my tape at? Now I really wish I had, where'd my blue tape go? I really wish I had one of those, crud, what are they called? The RPM sensors, the things you point. Oh, there it is. You know those, I can't remember what they're called. The little laser thing that you point at it to actually check RPM. But I don't have one of those, so I can't really confirm. But it is stated that this does 12,000 RPM. And according to this, I think it does, so. So it kicks on around 1500. But the problem is at 1500, you have no torque. Like, if I really grab this, I could stop it. It's got no torque at 1500 RPM. So that's the problem with spindles. You don't have low torque or low speed torque, okay? So you're not gonna be drilling with something like this. You circle mill because you're trying to run in drill bits at such a low speed or high speed, it just doesn't work. So yeah, it does have a tack. It's got a speedo on it, but it does go up to 12,000. And it pushes a lot of air when I do that. So this is how I'm gonna solve the cooling issue on the stock heat fan, or the stock heat sink on the Ender 3. I'm actually gonna print a giant fan and use this as my part cooling fan on the Ender 3. That's how I'm gonna get those crazy high ABS print speeds on it, is I'm gonna use this as my part cooling fan with a 3D printed fan on it. So screw the CNC, this is now my part fan. Yeah, you can peck drill with small drill bits. Like you can get like some really funky stuff out there. Like they have some really nice 1-flute end mills for stuff like this. But this project is like, we're talking half year away at earliest. And I don't think I'll stream it. This would probably be video stuff. Simply for the fact that like building a CNC is a lot of just finagling and checking measurements and tuning. And I'm gonna be doing it all in my garage because I can't do this in my basement. So the CNC series will probably be videos. They probably won't be streams. I probably will stream some stuff, but the actual build would probably be a stream or videos. How about drilling with the drill bit in reverse, going down very slowly? I don't think I can run this in reverse. Like I have no way to switch it, put it that way. DC motor spindles have no torque. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's known. This is going to be running. You know, they run fast. Oh, this isn't for PCBs. I'm hoping I could do aluminum. The goal is an aluminum machine, and I figured the Bantam could do aluminum fine at 250 watts, and that has a DC motor in it, and this is double that. So we should be okay. So we are coming up on 11. So I end the stream at 11. So we went over sourcing. Was there any other questions you guys had about building a Voron or about the Toasty Boy build, or sourcing components, or if you have any questions about individual components, just let me know and we'll do Q&A for the last 20 minutes of the stream here. While I drop stuff, I'll put on some funkier music. Will the stream be uploaded? Yes, all my streams are on the channel. I don't delete any of my streams. They're all on my channel. If you go, I have a playlist of live streams. It'll be in there. What's the plans for installation? So I would like to get ACM panels for the exterior panels, and I'm going to panel up all the sides except the front. The front is going to be the only thing that has an acrylic panel. Every other side is going to be ACM if I can find a source for it up here in Canada. After that, I'm going to be using, what's it called? Let me find it here. It's roll insulation. It's Reflectex. Yeah, this stuff. So this will be what I will be insulating with, is Reflectex insulation. So what you do is you basically cut it and then tape it to the outside, and you use this as your, what are you listening to here? Oh, that's why I have the wrong one. Go with that. So this is what will be the actual outside of the insulation. What are the color schemes? If you look at the picture of the channel, or like the stream picture, that is the color scheme. We're going to be going with black, or correction, we're going to be going with red LDO extrusions for the frame, and all the components are going to be black carbon fiber nylon. So, and of course I'm going to cover the whole thing with insulation, so you're not going to be able to see any of it. So, what I suggest, you build a 2.4 or 1.8, have 3 printers worth of parts to use. If you have 3 printers, then build one of each and then build a third one. But in terms of the 2.4, is like the bread and butter Voron. It's an absolute workhorse machine. The 1.8, if you think you're going to have issues with it's not really more complex. The 2.4, it's just a more intensive build because there's 2 stepper or 2 controller boards and everything. The V1.8 is a great machine. The V2, I think, is just an improved great machine. Yeah, it's personal preference, honestly. What best to do if computer isn't close to Voron to control it? You can go on your phone. You can use your phone with Clipper and mainsail and fluid and all that. You can use your phone. So yeah, you can just pull out your phone, access mainsail or fluid through there, and then you can control your phone there. Or you can use the screens for controlling them if you have a screen attached to it. I'm buying the aluminum V2 kit. The aluminum V2 kits, I don't think anyone's actually done a build with them yet. And the few people that I have that have them on hand, they changed some things that may not work well. So for example, like the whole afterburner assembly, on the afterburner toolhead, this is the V0 direct feed toolhead, for example, you have the little latch that is for locking down your feed gear. This has to have flex in it. There is supposed to be a little bit of flex in there for it to work. This out of aluminum will not work. The ball joints on the V2 for attaching the gantry to the rails, the Z rails, they didn't ball joint them. They're just flat aluminum. So they might have binding issues. So yeah, I don't think it's worth going with an aluminum kit. The only parts that would be nice out of aluminum would be like XY joints, motor mounts, the Z assembly. But a full kit, I think, is a waste. You're going to use TF nylon for Melty Boy. What we'll use to print it, I can't wait until you make that video. I'm going to probably try doing it on just V226. I'm going to flip the, I'm just going to do it on V226. I'm going to throw, I got some hardened nozzles here. Throw one in and just give her, and we'll see how it goes. If I have issues with it, I plan on printing the printer out of ABS or ASA. And then what I will do is I will reprint the parts in CF nylon on Toasty Boy. We'll see. When do you think we'll have affordable 7-stepper driver motor or motherboards? There is the Fly CDI, I think it's called. Let me pull it up here on AliExpress. There's CDY. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's 6. Or is it the Spider? Yeah, because there is like, there's this board here that has 9 motor drivers. This is the Fly, the Mellow Fly. And then there's, this has 6. And I think there's a Spider, there's a board called the Spider. I don't know. That has more as well. It's starting to become more common to have larger boards, I think. But you can just run 2 boards. That's the thing with a Voron at least. The only thing is you have to be aware of is when you're running more than one board, the end stops and thermistor for that operation have to be on the same board. So if you have your extruder motor on board A, the thermistor for the extruder has, or for the hot end has to be on board A. If you're running your Y motor on board B, the end stop for Y has to be on board B. That's clipper and has to do with timing. So really each version has its own pros, cons, use scenarios. Pretty much, Adam, they're different models. So it's not Voron version 1, version 2. It is V1, V2. Like the name is V1, V2. The V stands for Voron. So it's Voron, Voron 1, Voron, Voron 2. It's like they are individual printers. The number after it, the decimal, is the revision. So V1.8 is a Voron V1 revision 8. What do I think of the FormBot AliExpress 2.4 kit? I haven't had a time to really look at it fully, but from their other kits, I think you're probably going to be replacing stuff on it. No kit is perfect. I haven't seen a perfect kit yet. The closest ones I've seen are the Magic Studio kits are pretty good. But the FormBot, I don't know. I've seen bad stuff from them, so I'm kind of hesitant to say go for it. Michael, yes, exactly. So if like on right here on V226. So say, okay, you got your XY motor, your extruder, you put that on one board, and then you have your 4Z motors, you put that on the second board. That's how most people do it. How the V1 fits in. So the V1 was the first one designed. So in terms of release, the V1 came out, and then a couple of years later, the V2 came out, and then the V0, then the switch wire, then the Legacy. The Legacy is a throwback to the original design of the V1 back when it had rods and bearings. Because all the V1, V2, switch wire, and V0 current revisions all use rails. So the Legacy is basically a throwback to the original design, like the original Vorons back when it was rods and bearings, and it's kind of like a resto mod, where you take like an old design, but you put new features in it. It's like a fun build, especially if you have like an older Voron that still uses rods and bearings, you have an upgrade to the lead screws or to the rails, and you want to reuse it. So, but yeah, the V1 is simpler, it's cheaper. The gantry is actually more rigid on the V1 because it doesn't have to fly or twist. So you technically can get higher accelerations out of the V1 gantry. The only difference is you're now at the top of all your weight's up top, so you have to worry about the printer shaking. So yeah, you can run higher accelerations, but you may not be able to run it as hard because it'll shake more, for example. So, what wattage rating is needed for the heat set inserts? I just use like a $10 Alex or Amazon soldering iron at like the lowest setting you can go, and it pushes them in just fine. Yeah, when you're putting in the heat set inserts, you don't want to cook them. You just want to just melt the plastic enough to push it in. So. Is it okay to use the A version of the Raspberry Pi and use the USB hub? Yeah, you shouldn't have any issues with the hub. As far as I'm not mistaken, you should have no issues with the USB hub. Because I have a Raspberry Pi A. That's what or 3A. That's what I was running on the Ender for a bit there before I swapped the control board out. Sloth, structural, and you don't need to mod structural, like if, none of the printers have structural rigidity problems. If you want to strengthen it and put panels on it to stiffen it up, like they're all designed to have panels all around it already. So if you want to put stiffer couplers on it, go ahead. It's not really a big change. Here. What board is the Ender running right? It is running the Fly Fly RFE3. It's a custom board for it. It's basically, imagine you took an SKR and made it specific for RepRap firmware. Plus it has built-in PT100 support and a Wi-Fi module. So it's running RepRap firmware standalone in one board. So it's actually a really nice board. I'm liking it quite well so far. I feel kind of bad for it because I can't really be testing it fully right now because I gotta rip that H2 off of it and put the stock setup back on because it's giving, the printer right now is giving that board a disservice. So. Am I still planning to connect the Ender 3 to the Pi? That is a future project. That is on the list of things. I got a board going right now with all the current things. I need the time to do everything. Does Clipper have anything like S-curve acceleration? It has input shaper, which is better. You can basically slap an accelerometer on your tool head, measure how much it vibrates for certain frequencies, and you can tune your printer to basically cancel it ringing almost entirely now. And that's just running a macro, which I'll have a video on soon. I've done it on a stream already, but basically you can auto-tune your printer within a $3 accelerometer. So you don't need to worry about S-curve when you have input shaper. Any update on the H2? I will be doing a video on it. Hopefully I'm gonna try and record it tomorrow. But I can't review it because I can't get it to work. I'm having so many issues with it and reliability issues. They said they're gonna send me an updated version. So I think I'm just gonna rip it off as is and do a little post-mortem on it about the things I like and dislike about it. And that will be it for now. So, well, why not put an afterburner on the Ender 3? Because I have afterburners on for my printers already. I want the Ender 3 to be able to do different things. So many people have Ender 3s. This is my test bed printer for if I get an extruder to test or something like that. That's what the Ender 3 is for. Next Ender project, all linear rails and dual Z. Just build a switch wire at that point. Core XZ. Goodness. Watch here. It's connected. I can pull it up 1 second. Jobs. Where is it? It's here. I have a loose screw in it somewhere I gotta find. But yeah, it's a Core XZ printer. Brad Cook, $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Officially finished my first Voron, a V2 300 today. Thank you very much for all the videos. Already have half the stuff for a switch wire. Nice, man. Congratulations on the build and good luck on the switch wire build. Have you seen the Ender switch wire conversion mod? Yeah, I've seen a few of them. I don't plan on converting the Ender 3. I already have a switch wire, and I want to keep the Ender 3 an Ender 3 so I can do Ender 3 stuff with it, basically. AKA, input shaper would help you a lot with that. Max temp on Toasty Boy. Basically, it's going to be able to do, my goal is for Toasty Boy to be able to do everything except for like peak ultimate and all that. So it's going to be designed around doing carbon fiber, nylon, polycarbonate, like that kind of stuff that wants a higher, warmer temperature. So I'm going to be using a mosquito hot end. It's all metal. It'll do 300, no problem. And then I'm hoping for a chamber temperature of around 70 Celsius, basically. Correct, Fun Volley. That's why. So Core XZ, it's cheaper, it's lighter, and you don't have to worry about Z screw wobble. And also, you can do really fast Z hopping. So all the advantages and none of the disadvantages. And the best part is, we turn it off. The gantry doesn't drop. So if you want to raise and lower your gantry, you just kind of grab it, go up, go down, go up, go down. I'm not using chamber heaters, Adam. I'm not going to be doing a chamber heater at all. A 300 watt or whatever size, I can't remember what it was. Whatever size bed heater is sufficient to heat a chamber to 70 degrees Celsius if it is properly insulated. And another good advantage of having proper insulation is because when you're keeping the heat in, the printer uses a lot less power because you're not having to cycle the bed as often to heat it back up. So it's like when when you own a house, when you have more insulation in the house, you pay less on your heating bill. That's the same thing with a 3D printer. When you enclose it, you're having to run your heater less because it's keeping the heat in. So the better you insulate your printer, the more efficient it is. How much money will you save building a 1.8 versus 2.4? You're gonna save the cost of 3 motors, a second controller board, some wiring, and some other incremental. It's not as much as you think, but it is a few hundred. Is there a way to measure chamber temperature through Clipper? Yeah, you would just have to have another thermistor hooked up to the board and just assign it something. Couldn't afford peak even if I could print it. Exactly. Like, nobody needs to print peak at home. Everyone's like, oh, I read a NASA article that said how they printed peak on a modified Lulzbot. That is not a common thing. You do not need to print peak at home. Unless, like, hey, I work in aerospace or medical field and I need to print peak. Yes, valid reason. Hey, I want to print a peak Bentley so I can get on the front page of R printing or R 3D printing on Reddit. You don't need to print peak. So when it comes to bed warping with a powerful heater, you PWM it down. So you don't actually run the bed at that temperature or at that wattage. So I think it's 0.4 watts per square centimeter, I think is the math. Are your parts going to space? Space. If anyone works at SpaceX and can hook us up with getting a 30 by 30 by 30 cube into one of the rideshare launches, let me know. We are trying to send one of these to space. What will a 2.4 cost in good parts of Canadian loonies? You're looking at about, depends on the size, how good you are at sourcing, and the problem is shipping kills us up here. Budget 1,500 plus or minus a few hundred, honestly. Well, getting on the front page of Reddit is not a valid reason. Those are my plans for 3D printing the size of a car. They printed a boat. Did you not see they printed a boat? Maybe it's a little loud. Okay, I'll turn it down. Sorry, guys. I like having the music on when I do streams where I'm building, just because I have a lot of dead air sometimes, but this stream was a lot of talking. Here, we'll go over to synthwave. It's usually a little bit less. Hey, everyone has different tastes, Hemi. So yeah. So this came in. This was totally a Thursday night after work, and I saw that there was one left on Amazon. Would you buy Vivendo? No, I would not buy Vivendo. The Vivendo Troodon is basically like a weird bastardization of a V 2.0 and 2.1, and there's a lot of issues with the design, from what I can understand. Just judging by the amount of people that that come into the Voron Discord asking for help about it. Well, congratulations, Mike. I never win anything either, so I'm always happy to give stuff out. So, what are we at right now? Oh, we're at 11. Okay, so I think I'm going to end the stream now. Again, for all of you out there, if you do have any questions, just ask them in the comments below. I do make it a habit to try and answer as many comments as I can on YouTube when I get the chance. So if you do have any questions, if you're watching this stream on a later date, go ahead, ask the questions in the below. I'll try and answer them. For all those that donated tonight to the stream or became a channel member, or if you want to go also sign up to my Patreon, your guys' support is amazing. You help me do the things that I want to do, because I know you guys like watching what I do, and I have fun doing this, and your support has allowed me to do much more than I ever thought I would be able to do, and I'm hoping that we can continue this and do a lot more in the future, because I got big plans. I would also like to give a shout out to Sparta 3D for donating the dragonflies that we gave away tonight. It is always good to make a can and give out some stuff to us Canucks up here. And then also a big thank you to Thangs for sponsoring the stream tonight. You guys are awesome, and thank you for welcoming me into the community, and I hope you enjoyed the stream as well. If you guys haven't had a chance, make sure you check out Thangs, sign up, create an account there, upload some models, download some models, see all the things they have there. That community is growing, and I have high hopes for them, and I can't wait to see what becomes of them. So, hope you enjoyed the stream tonight. Hope you learned something new. As always, be safe out there, wash your hands, and have a good night. Peace.